Hello, hello, testing. Perfect. Yes.
Last week I was not here,
Oh,
but you gave feedback on the Tivra data.
on
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah. So I
Did
looked
you?
at the video.
Okay.
They were really, really on the
On the
high
mark.
side
Okay,
because
good.
we were thinking about those questions and
Good, good, good.
some of these questions related to business model, how to price it,
Great. Good, 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 good.
and
So you're going to actually sell, is it?
yeah. So we are
Perfect.
talking to right now three.
that what you were talking about is more. And 5, 6 years or 10 years.
I think this battery is dying.
Okay. Oh, yeah, this one is fresh.
Okay, guys, let's go. Okay, let's go, guys. You can eat in the class. Hey, come.
This idea. Do you do the STP analysis before you come up with the BMC or
What analysis?
STP, the segmentation, targeting, positioning?
I think they're,
To parallel?
yeah, do it in back and forth. Sometimes one thing works, sometimes the other thing works. Got it?
Last time,
Hmm?
we lost a headset from a headset.
Oh, the headset was with them.
Yeah, and he gave it back to me, and I kept it here. But by the time I turned around, it was missing. So
Oh
somebody
no.
must have taken it.
Why don't you announce that? Yeah, so why don't you announce it?
You can tell.
Okay, I'll do that, yeah. Okay,
It's a big one. It's one of the employees.
okay. But they probably left it over the week, overnight, no?
No. Actually, I was here. I realized it
Hi.
then and there. Figure out because 21st we can't have it here.
Oh,
Yeah, send you a.
yeah, so where do you want to do it?
That's why we need to actually figure out another date or something. Because my story has to happen here.
Okay, 21st, we'll do it. Try one more time. Find a space one more time.
For rent a room for the project, I have sent an updated version of the.
Okay, we can use. We'll put that up. Okay, guys. Hello. Testing. Okay, fine. Okay, let's get started. So let's see what you got planned for today. So between now and about 8:15, 8:30, we're going to have Ramneek Basin, who's already done 4 companies and is starting his 5th company right now. He's starting his funding process and idea development and everything right now. So he's going to be our guest speaker. And Ramneek is exciting because where AGK was kind of an expert on bootstrapping and funding and growing the company, Ramneek is an expert on marketing, sales, and business development. And we all know that as an entrepreneur, that the hardest thing in a company is actually the marketing, sales, and business development, because the engineers can pretty much take care of the product development, right? It's the marketing, finding the customer, getting the first deal, getting him to maybe invest as AGK did, got his customers to do. Those are the really tough things that you got to kind of get your first customers to do, because you've got to generate a lot of trust. And we're going to learn everything about that from how Ramneek has done that. And then we'll cover some slides to kind of put all of it together as to what the customer discovery and customer validation portions of your entrepreneurial journey is all about. And we'll talk about how in the real world, discovery or figuring out, how your product can be specced out, how you can figure out what the key competitive advantages are or differentiation is from the competitors, how it's done in the real world. And I'll kind of share with 4 or 5 examples from my companies that I did. Like, how did I really get figured it out for Opti? How did I figure it out for Selectica? How did I figure it out for Dyno? Because it's not how textbooks tell you it's done. It's done, and an entrepreneur does it in a different way. Okay, so, and after that, we'll take a break, and then we will go through the remaining half a dozen BMCs, and hopefully they've already factored in a lot of the feedback that we gave last time, and we'll get an opportunity to kind of dig into the BMCs, which should be significantly more focused by now. Okay. Okay. So Ramneek, please, Ramneek will cover kind of his background for the first 20 minutes, his journey as an entrepreneur to date, and then focus in on business, sales, and development. So let's have Ramneek put this on. Yeah, much better to put this on. Yeah.
Okay.
Just put it under your belt. Yeah. Under your belt is good. Yeah. Perfect. Here.
All right. Yeah, I think. Excellent. Thanks, Raj, for inviting me to speak. You guys mind if I move around, or I guess I am untethered? Oh, okay.
Because there's two cameras. This is a YouTube on air,
Okay.
and then that's.
I'll adapt.
We need to do.
Okay. So you can't constrain an entrepreneur. All right. With that out of the way, hi, I'm Ramneek Bhasin. I meant to make this very interactive, so any question, anytime is fine. I want to focus less on my story, but more on the learnings. So I'll just give a brief on the story, and then I'll touch upon the different elements of the different companies. So since 83 to 95, about 12 years, I worked in corporate America, did the traditional route, went to school in Kanpur, came here, did my master's, fought for my green card, got my first job, got into corporate America. 12 years later, I was working for this company called Schlumberger. Some of you might have heard of that. So my last assignment with Schlumberger was doing a joint venture between Yokogawa and Intel and Schlumberger. It was mixed signal testing at that time. So I kind of migrated from engineering into product and software strategy at that point. And so I was part of this 3-person team that did the joint venture. In 1995, if you go back, that was a $50 million joint venture. We got the deal done, and my bonus check was $40,000. So I looked at that and I said, well, there's a lot to be done. I mean, there was a lot that was done, and then all you get is like a piddly $40,000. So I literally walked out and I said, I can do this on my own, on a wing and a prayer. Now, what am I going to do? What was I good at? I was good at scoping out software strategy and software roadmaps. So I partnered with a couple of my former colleagues from digital equipment that I'd worked with for a long time. And the three of us joined hands and created this consulting company. And the strategy was all three of us were product people. But all of us were very good at what we did in terms of either software strategy or product strategy or business management and so on. Those were the three skills that we had between the three of us. So we said, well, we'll bootstrap it by consulting. And then as we kind of collect some cash, then we had a product idea. We'll start working on the product idea. Well, in theory, that was very good. And our bill rates were pretty high. So we were spinning off a lot of cash. But anytime we would spin up cash, it would be used to preemptively or proactively hire more consultants, not product people. So it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, even though the business was doing very well. We're generating a lot of cash flow. All of us are living a comfortable lifestyle. But this idea about doing the product still kept bothering us. So this was 95 to 99. And so in 1999, I finally threw in the towel. I said, guys, I don't care whether you guys want to do this or not. I'm out of here because I want to build a product. And so I raised my first round of venture in 99. And since then, I haven't looked back in terms of then only doing venture-funded startups. So the one key ingredient I learned was I'd always been a product person all my life. The first venture you start as a consultant, it's just you're out of your element. So what was the first learning out of that came out of it? That as a principal in the company, I was equally responsible for sales and marketing as my other two co-founders. So there was no hiding behind any facade in terms of when it came to sales and marketing. So the epiphany out of that experience was that I'd done every role inside a Fortune 50 class company, working for digital and for Schlumberger. I'd done engineering, research, manufacturing, marketing, strategy, product. I'd done all of that, but I'd never done sales. And so now 2 years into this company, first couple of years went by quite nicely, simply because people were willing to bet on us as people, and they were paying us these billing dollars. But now when it came time to kind of scale it out and have more consultants deployed, then you had to do sales and marketing. My other two partners were on the East Coast, and I was heading off the West Coast chapter. So not only did I have to make West Coast chapter profitable, the other two guys were billing a lot more than I was because they were a lot more hands-on. So I inherited the charter of doing sales and marketing across both Boston, New York, and then Silicon Valley and Los Angeles. Long story short, I went and talked to people in terms of trying to figure out what it takes to do sales and so on. What does it take to kind of write these contracts where you are not part of the delivery, you're part of the partnership management and so on. So that was a very key learning, how the importance of doing sales, the importance of losing any shred of inhibition that you have, any shred of ego that you have, you park it at the door when you walk into a customer or a partner site. So that was key learnings from that first venture. How that helped me was when I then started this company called Vialto in 1999 and 2000 timeframe. I was able to close a quick seed round very quickly, putting my own money in there as well, so it became easier to kind of close the round. But then when we came to raising venture, 2001 was a pretty bad environment for those of you who remember. So really had to kind of figure out a way to position the plan. And even since then, I was telling Raj kind of half-kiddingly, even during the early days, or since the early days, I've never really written a business plan. And I was telling Raj that maybe this will be a negative and a detriment for this class in that I don't have any formal background in writing a business plan or understanding the canvas or the 9 elements of what makes a company. So those are alien concepts to me. I mean, I now know those concepts, but when I now raising my first round of venture, it became, again, a handicap, because venture capitalists would look at, they would evaluate your formal business plan, they're evaluating your business strategy, how are you going to do sales and marketing, on and on and on and on. And it's a tough environment. So again, the key learning out of that was park your ego at the door, think about the business first, think about the company first, and that's how we kind of figured out the solution. There's a term for it, which I didn't know back in 2000, and the term for it is called product market fit. Anyone of you heard product market fit as a term? There you go. See, so many people have heard of it now. And I learned about that term literally about a year ago. Okay, so, but back in 2000, that's exactly what we did. We said, okay, the product, and so what was the product? This was enterprise access. If you go back to the time frame of 2000, BlackBerry pagers were just about coming out, and they were expensive as hell. You had to pay like $50 a month for service. The pager itself would run you $300, $400. So it was really meant for the top 5% of the people in Fortune 50 companies, where the sales reps or the execs were able to buy that pager. But everybody else was carrying those like $50 Motorola pagers where they would just get one text message at a time. So our whole value proposition was that we will make the BlackBerry for the 95% of the companies. And how did we do that? We would do it by voice. So at that time, nobody had heard of Siri, right? So we came up with the very elegant constrained grammar of you could make voice commands and look at any enterprise data. And so we filed the original patent. I filed the original patent in 2000. And once we filed the patent, then VCs stood up and took notice. So not only did we file the patent, we came up with the product. And then we said, we'll take Series A money to figure out the market fit. That on theory, it makes sense that we'll go after this 95% of corporate America that can now use low-cost access to enterprise data by using voice commands from any telephone. So you could pick up a landline. At that time, wireless phones were expensive. Voice quality was horrible. Network quality was horrible. And so landlines actually became the vehicle by which somebody could just pick up the phone and say, hey, when is my next meeting with Raj? What time does class start? Or give me directions to Thai Silicon Valley. So those were the kinds of voice commands you could utter into a landline phone and get the data on your BlackBerry pager or sent to you by email. So we launched that company. And then in 2001, we raised finances. By 2002, the market completely fell apart. So we were going after enterprise accounts. We had to pivot. And we didn't pivot the product, but we pivoted the sales strategy and the channel strategy. So we decided we'll go after the telecom operators at that point. So the enterprise market had kind of collapsed. But in 2002, 2003, the telecom market was still spending money. So we said, okay, why don't we create a channel kind of a strategy that will then take this product and deploy it using these different carriers, whether it's AT&T and so on. So again, we tried to work that, but by 2003, late 2003, even the telecom market had fallen apart. So now we are stuck. Now we have a great product. We had great beta customers, first customer that was paying as well, but we were totally stuck. And we had also raised another round of financing in that meantime. So now, what do? Yes, you have cash in the bank, but by all yardsticks of imagination, this company is not going to go anywhere. So then came the first thought of an exit strategy, which I had never done before. So the first company that I'd founded, my personal exit strategy was that I had my partners buy my shares out at a reasonable price. Now you have 40, 50 people in the company, you've raised money, and you know the company is not going to go anywhere. You've got to figure out how to bring this thing home. So again, the learning was, when you start off as an entrepreneur, at that time at least, as I said, I was a hack, never did a business plan. Exit was not even a figment of my imagination. It was more, how do I build this thing? How do I take it to the next level? Well, now when you're stuck in a spiraling downward economy, you got to find a home. So we did a lot of guerrilla tactics, got 2 or 3 buyers excited about it. And the guerrilla tactics were literally go into the home turf of our biggest competitor for that piece, and it happened to be Cisco. And we just said, we just focus on one market and just win as many accounts as possible in that one market. And that happened to be Phoenix, Arizona, and one of largest Cisco's customers, and we broke them. We got in there, we got in our pilot, and now suddenly then we created an environment where the customer is calling Cisco and saying, hey, you got to look at this little startup company. You guys, I've been asking this solution forever from you guys. And the CIO placed a call to Cisco corporate saying, we've been asking for this solution forever. And here's this piddly little company has given it to us, and you guys can't even compete. Well, guess what? You have an inbound call. We want to talk. Oh, yeah, you want to talk? Okay, let's go talk. So again, we exited to Cisco in late 2004. We were the second acquisition that Cisco did after almost a 4-year winter. So that was the second company. The third one was a disaster. So I'll start that right off the bat. Not a disaster because of anything wrong we did. The product market fit just did not happen. We had a great product. So the third company was a company called Mobio, which was a multi-purpose app store. So now if you can go back to 2005, 2006 timeframe, app store was not a word. Nobody had heard of things called App Store. iPhone had not even come out. iPhone came out in late 2006, early 2007. So in 2006, we came up with this concept of a multi-platform app store. You could take Motorola Razr apps, you could take BlackBerry apps, Windows Phone was active at that point in time. Symbian, for those of you who know Nokia, was active at that point in time. So we came up with this platform where a developer could write once on our reference platform, and they could deploy their applications on any of these target platforms, and we would run the app store. And we raised a boatload of money, because now I had credentials, I'd sold the company to Cisco, money was not an issue. Well, you don't find these issues till you kind of run into them head first, is that the whole handset market, the whole wireless market, I mean, it was not even 2G at that time, it was 1G. You just could not deliver quality, right? And while on Vialto, we had figured it out using landlines, but in the case of Mobio, when you're deploying these applications, not for yourself, but for developers, and developers have already invested in your platform, well, guess what? That company was not going to go anywhere. So we returned money to the investors at some point in time, not everything, and then we decided we'll just shut this business down. So that was a very hard decision, and that was a labor of love, lots of money raised, lots of friends made. But the good part of all that was that those investors have still remained loyal and friends and committed. And I'm delighted to say that we shut the company down in 2008. Now this company that I founded in 2015, all my previous investors have invested. Okay, so this is, you're playing for the long haul. So what was the key learning out of that? Is that collectively made the decision, with investors, with the team, that it is better to take your opportunity cost lumps, close the business down, and move on. Okay? Now, so you come to, now I took some time off because there was total burnout at that point in time. And then instead of starting another company, which I'm quite which I very much wanted to do, a friend of mine called Shiva, who some of you might know, I'm sure Raj knows, he called upon me, and he was running this company called The Find, which was an e-commerce search engine. And that was a web company. It was second only to Google in terms of Google shopping, had the largest index, but it was all on the web. So this was 2010 now. So Shiva wanted to pivot the company to mobile because he saw that 5 years ago that we have to take The Find to mobile. And so he basically gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. He said, come and be an intrapreneur. Take the company, you decide the charter, and we'll pivot the company once you decide what the mobile strategy is. So I built the mobile strategy, built the whole mobile business plan. By the time we came to 2014, 55% of our traffic was mobile. So in a 4-year time frame, we converted from 100% web to 55% mobile. And happy to report in April, we were acquired by Facebook. So April, Shiva and I exited Facebook. We had a little bit of commitment, which we took care of. And then during the last few days, we were nurturing this idea, which I don't know if some of you saw in my bio or not. And if it's not obvious to you so far, is that every venture that I've done has been very different. So this time was no different. Now we're looking for a challenge, and a big challenge. We're not about to do something small. You want to do something that is big and impactful. So we came up with this idea for the company called Next Force, and literally the name also has a lot of thought behind it. It's about the next generation of the workforce. So everybody's talking about the on-demand economy, the shared economy, and so on. And we found this nice big greenfield area, or white space, as some of you might want to call it. And it's in the area of helping these workers where they are doing shift work or part-time work for retail stores, restaurants, hotels, and so on. So these guys are qualified to some degree, but if you think about it, tools like LinkedIn doesn't work for them. Recruiters are not looking on LinkedIn for people who are working restaurant shifts or working at Macy's or Home Depot or Target. Similarly, the guy working the electrical outlet, the electrical aisle on Home Depot is not posting his resume on LinkedIn either. So we kind of stumbled upon that opportunity. The Find was an e-commerce company. And the reason we stumbled into that opportunity was because once we were exiting to Facebook, we had connections with people at Facebook, at Home Depot and Macy's and so on. And we would generally have casual conversations with them saying, what more can we solve? What's the next generation of problems that we can solve in e-commerce? And what became resoundingly clear to us was that they all consistently said, forget e-commerce, that's working. Help us with brick and mortar, because that's where we're having the problems, and mostly in staffing and retaining people. So that was the idea behind NextForce. Again, long story short, we formed the company towards middle of April. Last week, we closed the seed round of financing with all the old investors coming in. And now we're just trying to vet out the idea. We haven't taken Series A. We just took a very small seed round, and then we'll do Series A in the next few months. So that's the story. And then I'll pause if there are any questions. Otherwise, I'll kind of move into some of the key learnings around sales and marketing.
In general, you explained the last one, but how do you find your ideas? They're so different that how does it come?
Actually, over the last few years, a structure has kind of evolved, and evolved because more of product thinking and so on. So what we do now is, by the way, when I'm saying we, every venture I've done has always been teams of 3 or 4 founders. What I found works is 2 might be good, 3 is very good, and 4 you have some dynamics, but it works. So you have to have critical mass of people who think differently, who come up with ideas and so on. So you start with basically a big funnel. You pick some basic principles. And then you ideate, making sure that anything that you benchmark against it can meet those basic principles. So like in the case before we started NextForce, the three core principles that we wanted to observe was, one was it has to be mobile, preferably mobile only, but mobile first would do. So we did not want to deviate from the mobile. Second, we wanted it to be disruptive, that it has to change rules of the game, right? And third, it has to be in an existing market. We are not about to create a new market, okay? And the inspiration comes from people like Uber and Airbnb. I think I was having a conversation with Rina, she's not here anymore. But Airbnb really disrupted an existing hotel market. Uber disrupted an existing limo and taxi market, right? New way of doing things. So those two were the key inspirations behind saying, okay, it has to be large, it has to be disruptive, and an existing market, okay? So then you take those core principles, and then you survey multiple verticals. So we started with e-commerce as a vertical, saying, okay, what can we do in e-commerce that is big and disruptive and existing market? We looked at account temps and can we take accounting services? We looked at Elance and kind of benchmark and saying, okay, what can we do that Elance is not doing or do differently? So you kind of pressure test all of those, and then you keep going down deeper and deeper. So you glom onto one thing, and then you go test it out with potential customers, potential employees, potential investors, and you do that as fast as you can. You do that as objectively as you can, and be prepared to nuke ideas faster than you can think of them. So you have to be callous and very regimented about making sure that if any of the pressure tests fail, move on. So that's the simple methodology that has evolved over the last few years. And I do that for product, I do that for businesses, and you kind of just perfect it.
Can you repeat the question?
The question was, 2 founders is good, 3 is better, 4 is good, but then you have to deal with some dynamics that happen. So why 3 is optimal is you can find 3 people who can think differently. And this, I got my first inspiration from what's the author's name? Sue or something like that, where he kind of had a picture of 3 warriors back to back, where if you have 3 warriors back to back, you've got 360-degree vision. So I don't know how that stuck in my head, but it really comes out and plays well in that not only 3 people you can have with different skills, different way of looking at the problem and doing it. In 4, overlap starts to happen. And once overlap starts to happen, then you get multiple opinions. Now, in a startup, there's no right or wrong. You got to go down a path, experiment, be able to nuke it and come back. So the more people you have in decision-making positions, the harder it gets to navigate, especially if you're running into holes and dead ends and so on. Then 1 or more people just get stuck on it. And then there's I call wasted energy in trying to bring one person or the other around. Not that there's anything bad with it. This particular one, we've got 5 co-founders. So go figure. But here we've all worked with each other, so we know.
So talk about organization that you do at early stage. I mean, for the 4 or 5 companies that you've been involved with, what are the dynamics in terms of who becomes CEO, who becomes VP, who becomes venture, and whatever?
So the question Raj asked was, how do you organize a company? How do you organize the functions? Who becomes the CEO? Who becomes VP of this or VP of that or head of this, head of that? I don't think there's a scientific answer for that. Generally, what I've seen is that unless it's like a deep research or algorithmic idea or coming out of a research lab, then the CTO is probably best positioned to be also CEO. But in most product companies, it makes a lot more sense to have a product guy or a business guy as the CEO. And everybody's stake might be the same, everybody's equity might be the same, but nominally the person who's carrying the CEO title at the end of the day is responsible to the investors, is responsible to the employees, is responsible to the customers. The buck stops there. So one of the people on the founding team has to A, acknowledge that, and B, be capable of that role. So in the first 3 companies I founded, I was the CEO. In the 4th one, I kind of was the GM for the mobile unit. And in the 5th one, because Siva and I were doing the 5th one together, then it just became logical between him and me that he became CEO and I took on the role as president, and then the other co-founder. Yeah, so it kind of just works itself out, and it's a lot easier if you've worked with people before. Then there's no second guessing. Everybody knows your skills. The one thing that you should do in a founding team is make sure that there is nothing left unsaid. It's like a marriage, I mean, or probably worse. So in a marriage, you can have a pissing contest with your wife or husband, and then still find you can make it up and go on vacation to Oregon and make it up. But in a founding team situation, in a business situation, those relationships are harder to mend. So you have to be very careful as you kind of get into that relationship that you're doing it for the distance. I've had to fire a co-founder before also. I won't name which of my companies. And oh, by the way, that one is public information. I was also fired as CEO from Vialto, and then reinstated for various reasons, because the CEO that we hired couldn't do the job either. So the board does, okay, so come back. So you go through all kinds of ups and downs, and being fired as the CEO is actually the best learning experience I've ever had, because again, at the end of the day, it proved to me that no, I felt vindicated that I had done nothing wrong. But is that how to manage the board? Is I was not feeding enough information to the board, and therefore the board made a wrong decision, because they just shot from the hip, and the guy coming in pulled a coup. So, and then when I had to fire a co-founder, it was because the guy couldn't scale. So you get the founding team started, but then comes a point in time where people will go up to a level, and then instead of not scaling, he was actually becoming negative influence on the rest of the company, because people look at him as a co-founder, and he becomes the go-to guy, and then the person started creating a fiefdom, which is very detrimental to a startup. So I've had to fire a co-founder as well, which has its own ramifications.
So are you going to focus on sales and
okay.
Start with the earliest. The first customer is the hardest for everybody.
Yeah.
So to the extent that you can tell us about how you got your first customer in all the 3 or 4 companies. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So in the consulting company, the first set of customers came from people I knew, people who I had kind of worked with in some capacity before, so they knew what I was capable of. And so as you guys start out, and everybody will have different ideas. So if you're starting out it's kind of hard to rely upon your close circle of friends and colleagues, because they may or may not be the right customer for that product. So the next best thing you can do for that is work with one level of indirection. So again, back in the mid-1990s and early 2000, tools like LinkedIn didn't exist. I mean, LinkedIn is a phenomenal tool for business development now, for sales and recruiting, but it didn't exist in 2000. So it was a bunch of cold calling. So the one inhibition, anyone who's going to take on the role of the business CEO or business lead in a company, or a marketing lead, or a sales lead inside the company, ask yourself the question, how willing and able are you to make a cold call? Can you start a conversation in the men's room? Can you start a conversation while waiting in line to buy a pair of shoes for yourself? Okay. If you can't, I would urge you to get those skills. Come out of your shell, practice those skills, try to talk to people in various situations. See if you can open up a dialogue and a conversation. And so now, in a more structured way, you look for contacts that can lead you to contacts. So you say, okay, I'm going to go after this particular customer. So let's take a specific example. So in the case of Vialto, we wanted to go after Fortune 500 or Fortune 50 companies that would have these 95% of the people that were using BlackBerry pagers. So how do you find those? So I literally would walk the mall and see people wearing those pagers, right? And the moment I found somebody wearing the most expensive ones, I would try and open up a conversation with them, saying, okay, if you're wearing a device that is worth like a 300 or 400 bucks at that point in time, those were expensive devices, and you're paying $50 a month, well, you must have some stature. So I would try and strike up a conversation with them, find out where they worked and so on, and then just, hey, here's what I'm doing. Would you mind if I came in and saw you in the office, right? So talk about cold calling, talk about guerrilla sales, and that's how you kind of get there. But all that granted, Vialto's first customer again came through connections. It didn't come through a cold call, it did come through connections. Once you get your first customer, even though they may not be a paying customer, or they might have just given you a letter of intent or some terms that they are willing to sign up for if you delivered X, Y, and Z, you use that as bait to the next customer. Because now you're starting to build on that premise, saying, hey, Joe is using it there. Or in our case, the first customer we closed was Avnet, which was a big distributor. So you go to Comdex, you go to Comdisco, or you go to HP, and you say, hey, look, these guys have sales reps on the street, and they can't afford $400 and $50 a month solutions, and they're signing up for my service now. Why don't you take a look at that? So you kind of create an environment where one customer, you kind of piggyback off of there, whether they've completely, and nothing unethical, nothing wrong about it. It's just saying, hey, they're taking lead, they're taking their prospects, they're taking a leadership role because they know they need a solution like this, and so why don't you also take a look at this seriously? So so that's how you kind of prospect for your customers. Now, marketing and BD are different animals. So in terms of organization, marketing and BD have to, at the end of the day, feed into sales. BD, the way I view it at least, is that it is the early days of sales. It is with BD that you figure out what your sales model is going to look like. You figure out what the pain points of a customer are. And if you're looking to hire a person for BD or for sales, initially, again, it all comes down to what product you have, what service you're producing. But in large part, what at least my experience has been, that BD, hiring BD guys up front is a lot better than hiring sales guys up front. Because the sales guys need a lot more structure. They need a lot more sales tools. And so when you're interviewing people, you got to interview for people that can work with very limited sales collateral, very little marketing input, and that they're like the best one. And now we don't do it so much, but car salespeople. Anyone who's bought cars 10 years ago, I mean, buying car now is a piece of cake. It was quite an experience. The sales rep would take you all over the place, do anything but sell the car to you, right? So that's what a BD guy does. The BD guy's sole responsibility is to ferret out the real requirements from a customer. And once your BD team has gotten that input, now you can start formulating a sales strategy. Now you can start formulating a sales model. So big difference between a sales strategy and a sales model, right? People here understand the difference, or should I spend some time on that? Okay. So a sales model is what your CFO or your operations people would come up with. They'll say there'll be a pricing strategy, there'll be an entry point saying, okay, I'm going to give this widget for $10 in order to sell this widget for $100 downstream. Or I'm going to create a product that is packaged with services for $10,000, and then the upsell will be a $100,000 contract, something like that, right? So that's your sales model, is that step 1, step 2, step 3, and so on. Sales strategy, on the other hand, is who do you approach, how do you approach, who's the buyer, who's the influencer. You're building a map around that and saying, okay, at the end of the day, somebody's going to sign the check. And what's my strategy to get to that person to sign the check? What all do I have to do? And pardon my French here, whose ass do I kiss to kind of get to that signature, right? So then comes out of that a sales strategy and a blueprint or a roadmap on an account-by-account basis, or you put accounts into different buckets and different types. This account, this kind of sales strategy would work. This different account, different sales strategy would work. So as an example, not one of mine, but let's just take a generic. You're Cisco and you're selling routers. You could be selling routers into a hospital, and you could be selling routers into Facebook. Completely different end customers for you, right? Different sales strategies apply. So in a hospital, maybe there's a CIO making a decision. At Facebook, maybe it's a 25-year-old kid that's making a decision, right? And so you got to figure out what your sales strategy is. Your pricing will be the same, your sales model might be the same, but the entry point and the approach to a particular customer in a particular segment might be dramatically different. Okay. Marketing. So let's talk about marketing. And it's probably the hardest thing I've done is hire VPs of marketing. Okay. Anybody here in marketing? Okay. So I'm going to ask you guys the question. How do you prove, when you're in an interview situation, now you're entrepreneurs, of course, so you're doing your own. How do you prove to the hiring CEO or to the hiring manager that you're better than any other marketing guy? How do you prove it? No, I want the marketing guys to answer. Do a presentation.
Draw figures.
Draw figures, okay.
Show your previous publications, your previous products.
Okay. Nothing works like past success. Okay. You got to prove it to me that this product or the set of products was doing diddly squat till you came on board and you made it happen. And what did you do to make it happen, right? So, I mean, I did that as general manager, is that I took traffic from 0 to 55% mobile, and this was 15 million unique visitors. This is not a small turnaround. We had 15 million unique users every month on the site, and 55% became mobile, right? So now I can look back and I say, okay, in a 3-year period, I created 8 million customers a month that would come to our mobile sites, right? Now that's tangible results. So for a marketing perspective, the people that I hire or I kind of want to have on my team from a marketing perspective, they have to show a proven track record. It's very hard to hire a marketing person just in the interview process alone. Sales guys, you can. They got to sell themselves to you. So it's easier to hire hard to hire a VP of sales, relatively easier to hire a salesperson, but extremely difficult to hire a VP of marketing. Director of marketing, director of PR, you can, because you can look at their publications, you can look at what they've done. But anyone in a strategy role who claims that they have done marketing have to be able to prove it, right? And now, what does that mean to you as entrepreneurs? What it means is that you have to have a marketing strategy as well, and then a bunch of tactics that kind of roll up into that marketing strategy. So what are you doing with marketing? You're setting a tone. You're positioning the product, or you're positioning the company, right? The way you say it, the way you write about it, the way you create PR about the company. How long do you stay in stealth? When do you come out? And what are the milestones that you want to come out swinging with? So in fact, I was mentoring one of our mutual friends who's doing this enterprise app, Vamshi. And he's got this great app, but he's just struggling because that app the value proposition is very hard to explain. And the reason he was having a struggle with is that even internally, he has not been able to connect the dots between the executive team as to how they should position the product. So a person who's doing marketing better have internal buy-in first, because at the end of the day, that one-liner, we all see it as consumers, we'll see a one-liner. But what it takes to get that one-liner is where the art is. How do you get that one-liner out? Okay, us coming up with the name Next Force took a while, right? I mean, now in hindsight, it looks really easy, but and it's part marketing, it's part experience, it's part gut feel, it's part vetting it out with people who's going to listen to the company's name. What is the tagline? Who's going to listen to the tagline? Pressure test that out, right? So the job of a marketeer starts from there. And then it comes down to, okay, how do I roll it out in Chicago? Or how do I roll it out in Paris, or how do I roll it out in Bangkok? And different markets will require different tactics, right? You have one product, but now you got to package it and position it differently. Different things sell for different people or different geographies. So that's a marketeer's job, to position the company in different geographies and different demographics and so on, right? So like take a case of LinkedIn. There's the same LinkedIn, but positioned very differently for sales and BD people, and positioned very differently for recruiters, okay? And positioned very differently for all of us who are the content. We are the content for LinkedIn. So the positioning that LinkedIn took in the market was for the professionals. That's how they got that critical mass. Once they had the professionals, now the marketing strategy turns to, okay, now how do we sell to recruiters? How do we sell to sales reps and BD, right? So there's a time for everything. So just like there's a product roadmap, there's a marketing roadmap. And to get the marketing roadmap executed, you got to have marketing tactics. Some guerrilla, some conventional, some known. Now the good part is, in today's world, there are a lot of marketing automation tools. Marketo didn't exist 5 years ago. Now you have Marketo, right? You have companies like Newsstand from Anand Jagannathan that are taking integrated marketing campaigns from any which way and then putting them out into social media, right? Social media didn't exist as a viable marketing channel till 3-4 years ago. It's only since Facebook and Twitter came out that marketing through social media has become so pervasive, right? But how do you launch a marketing campaign on Twitter? How do you launch a marketing campaign on Facebook? Okay, what do you look at to do that, right? So for the Find, we ran a very successful consumer acquisition campaign on Facebook. Now, that real life story I can share with you guys. When the company was a web-minded company, we were getting our 15 million traffic largely through SEO. The Find as a name was not known. Everybody would go to Google to start their shopping. Nobody would start at the Find. I shouldn't say nobody. There were 3% of the people who did start at the Find for shopping, probably friends like Raj. But 97% of the traffic came because we had phenomenal SEO. We'd done a very good job at SEO. Well, guess what? So when I first inherited mobile, how do you do SEO on mobile? Okay, how do you do SEM on mobile? In 2010, 2011, that channel did not exist. And the company DNA was all geared towards SEO and traffic acquisition. We would get traffic in, we would send it to our merchant friends, and we would make our money. And by the way, the company was profitable for the last 5 years. So even though we were venture funded, we were profitable as a company. Because we would get the traffic, we would process it in a proper way, give the customer value, and send them off to Macy's and Home Depot and Nordstrom. Well, you can do that on mobile. People are not going to start with your mobile app. Maybe they'll come on your mobile browser, but then the mobile browser experience is the same as the web. So first, we had to internally change the DNA of the company, and it could only be done simply because the founders and myself were totally aligned that this has to be done, because it was what is known as an existential crisis. That if we did not do this, we'd be out of business, because the world will go mobile and we would not. So then you have to figure out how to first change the company DNA from going from traffic acquisition to user acquisition, because now you have to change that, and that's marketing strategy. You do that. Sales is not going to do that. We didn't have sales. We had 2 people in BD. That's all we had. 2 people in BD, 0 in sales, and I had a group of like 5 or 6 people in marketing. So we had to completely gut our web marketing department, completely trashed it. Kept 1 person who knew SEO, SEM. That's it. Completely changed the marketing department first, got complete buy-in, changed the strategy to user acquisition, right? That was marketing strategy. Took us almost a year and a half. So it's not an overnight thing. Took a year and a half. So the lesson learned out of that is that all these are long-term bets, and you don't have an idea what's coming down the pipe, but you got to make some of these bets.
So what was for the mobile when you did the shift? What was the strategies you did
So we went and surveyed the Facebook platform. We looked at Twitter. We looked at Google to see what would we pay for a user. And the amount you paid, is it worth it? Is the long-term value being recovered? Right? So you do standard calculations that if I'm going to pay $2 for a user, well, how fast can I recover the $2? Okay. So you benchmark every platform with that. So you talk to Facebook, you talk to Twitter, you talk to LinkedIn, you talk to Google, you talk to all these guys, right? And Google was a competition, and still we talk to them because, hey, at the end of the day, they're selling ads as well. So we actually ran 30-day, 60-day tests on each platform. So we throw $10,000, $20,000 to go test out, and then use keywords and marketing phrases. And so basically there are three things when you put out an ad for user acquisition. There's the copy, there's the creative, and there's the call to action, right? And you build a matrix for different demographics. So then it was fine-tuned down to that if you're trying to acquire users, so any given day I could walk into my marketing team and we had a war room-like situation. So I could walk into the team and basically say, okay, today I've been looking at the stats. I don't have enough 20 to 30-year-old users. Today, I need to have 25 to 35-year-old women. Why? Because there's the Nordstrom half-yearly sale coming up for women. I don't have enough women users on the platform. So let's go acquire women users. So we turn all our ad budget and make the copy and the creative has really nice red shoes or really nice bracelets or something like that, right? So you got to be nimble in that regard and know how to speak to your audience at scale, right? Unlike a one-to-one, I don't know how many of you folks are in consumer or in enterprise, but enterprise, you have the luxury of sitting in front of your customer and having a dialogue. In the consumer space, that doesn't happen. In the consumer space, you got to wing it. And then you build the analytics and the support infrastructure behind it to be able to learn from a campaign and then tie it together.
Did you learn like which demographics users are better on which platform?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of learning. I mean, we had all kinds of data. Now, part of it I can't share because of the agreement with Facebook, but the answer is yes, we had all kinds of data, and you keep perfecting it, right?
So you said like normally we would have 2, 3, or 4 members in a team, but in your case you said you kept doing something new, you didn't have the domain knowledge. So how important is the skill set for a startup?
Very good question. So the question was, how important is domain knowledge to a startup? Because in my case, all these 5 companies have been dramatically different. What do you do to kind of assimilate those skills? Yeah. Other skill sets. Very good question. So I do it because it's an intellectual challenge, right? I don't recommend it for the faint of heart. Well, I don't recommend entrepreneurship for the faint of heart. That's a whole different story. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you are a domain expert in an area, then I would strongly recommend that you stay close to your knitting. That's your best bang for the buck for yourself. Now, I'm a generalist, right? So it applies to me. Since 1995, I haven't looked at a piece of code. I look at a piece of code, but I don't understand it anymore. But because I'm a generalist, it didn't really matter that I'm deeply familiar with an algorithm or deeply familiar with a demographic or not, right? So that was my personal thing. But despite that, when I'm getting into a new domain, what we now do is we surround ourselves with people that either, I mean, they may not be part of the core team, but they could be advisors, they could be investors, and so on. So like for this company, for NextForce, initially we didn't go after traditional Sandhill VCs. We went after people writing big checks to hotels, big checks to restaurants. So all these guys have phenomenal amount of cash flow. They can't invest in Silicon Valley companies. So we figured that angle, saying, okay, we'll give them a Silicon Valley company and a value-add investment proposition, and we learn from them. So in fact, our first set of customers, and we basically finished our PowerPoint today. Even though the funding is closed, the PowerPoint got finished today, literally. We're now rolling, and that PowerPoint now, we're pressure testing with our investors that are in the restaurant and the retail business. And then we'll roll it out to the real customers and saying, okay, how does this service play for you, right? So if you don't have it, surround yourself with it. If somebody on your team has it, they don't have to be the CEO to be the domain expert. They could be the CTO, they could be the product person, they could be the BD person, they could be the salesperson. But if somebody on the team has that expertise, more power to you. Now, in our case, none of us 5 have the expertise in on-demand economy. Well, part of it is on-demand economy is only about a year old. So in a new domain, you can't expect people to have domain knowledge either, right? I can't go hire people from Uber and Airbnb, they're too expensive, right? So what you do is you go for the next best thing, which is you go for people that you know and you can trust that they can grow and that they can adapt, and that they're fearless in terms of gathering data or listening to input without getting hung up on their own ideas, right? The advantage of not being from the domain is actually multifold. Especially if you're building a discontinuity in that market. So if you're too entrenched in the domain, then by definition, you're entrenched with old processes and the old way of doing things, right? Anyone who owned a taxi medallion could never have thought of Uber, let alone see Uber coming. Anybody who owned a hotel would never have built an Airbnb, right? Anybody who had actually Reid Hoffman, who did LinkedIn, didn't have a recruiting background. He was a technologist, right? But he built a network. At that point in time, he didn't have a social networking background. It wasn't even known, right? So in a way, domain knowledge can be good, and in a way, domain knowledge can be a hindrance in that you don't break the market up, or you don't disaggregate the market in a way that will lend itself to then building a big play.
We have heard about the expansion strategy, but the guerrilla marketing strategy is very interesting. Can you talk a little bit more on how you targeted the Phoenix for Cisco stage and how you figured out that that's the phase where there is potential strategy out there? So can you talk a little bit more on that?
Sure. I mean, that's a very simple case example. Phoenix was not as high tech, right? So here in Silicon Valley, you don't have those kinds of sales forces that are like 100 people on the sales force or 200 people on the sales force, right? So those large sales forces existed in Middle America. And so that's how we lucked out into saying, okay, we'll go out to a place, and Avnet happened to be in Phoenix, so we kind of lucked out. But that was not guerrilla. I mean, that was more kind of thinking through, right? Now, I wish I could share some of my learnings from the new venture, which now everything over the last 15 years or 20 years that I've learned has gone into guerrilla tactics to get this thing off the ground, but I can't share that, of course. But in terms of other guerrilla tactics I can share with you a couple from the find that we did. People here familiar with Etsy? Okay. So Etsy has like hundreds of thousands of, or millions of users and 30 or 40,000 small stores, right? So what we did at the find was, and we would send a bunch of free traffic and a bunch of paid traffic. So we just started routing a lot of free traffic to Etsy. And Etsy was not used to paying for traffic, because people are searching for unique things. If you're looking for a handmade calendar, or you're looking for a 49ers beer mug, or a custom 49ers beer mug, you'll inevitably run into somebody on Etsy that would be selling it. So what we did was we took all these, what we call them long tail queries or multi-slot queries, and just artificially pumped a lot more traffic towards Etsy. And we just kept that pace for 2, 3, 4 months. And then we would send the reports off to the Etsy exec team saying, hey, look amount of traffic we're sending you. Why don't you advertise with us? Nothing doing. 5th month, we choked the traffic. So talk about guerrilla, right? It's free traffic. And now suddenly 10,000 shopkeepers at Etsy are complaining, what happened to my traffic from the find, right? And in the meantime, we created like custom tools for them that they could take their store catalogs and literally with point and click, they could put up a catalog on the find. So if traffic went to the Etsy, not only would they discover that one product, but they'll suddenly see, oh, this shopper has these like 20 other products that I can look at in a flip kind of way, or on the mobile, you can browse through it and so on. So not only were the Etsy shop owners liking that, they were like loving the traffic. They like the format, but they love the traffic. And now when you choke it off, it becomes a problem. So guess what? $50,000 a month worth of advertising suddenly started happening. So that's one example of guerrilla. So in different cases, different things might apply. You got to think out of the box. Nothing unethical or wrong about it. It's just a tactic.
Your idea is unique. Market research, what are the ways to know that, okay, idea you have, but somebody is working on it, or is it really?
Well, again, so the question is, how do you test for uniqueness of your idea? How do you know that if you have the idea, 5 other people or whatever other people are not doing it? You can never know, right? Now, even having told you what I'm doing in the shared economy space, you still can't figure out what I'm really doing, right? Yeah. And you really don't know how I'm solving it, okay? So one thing I always encourage entrepreneurs to do is be very open about what you're doing. What I've told you is exactly what I'm doing. I just haven't told you how I'm doing it, right? I haven't told you the steps I'm taking to bring it to market. I haven't told you how I'm gonna bring workers and bring businesses together and match them. LinkedIn didn't tell you for the longest time how they're gonna market to that, right? So you will not know for a long time whether your idea is unique or not, especially if it's a big idea, right? You won't know if it's unique or not. Now, when you go for venture funding, then VCs will tell you, oh, have you looked at this company? Have you looked at that company? And so on. So pretty soon what happens is a map appears for you that says, okay, these companies are in this space doing this. And so maybe your solution has 10 components. They're solving 3, this other company is solving 4, you're solving 6, whatever, right? So generally people come up with matrices to say, okay, I'm doing this feature, that feature, that feature. This competition is not doing that, that, and that, right? But that takes a while to kind of get. And you'll never get that if the other companies are in stealth mode. Now, the flip side of that is, if other teams are doing what you're doing, that's actually validation of the idea, right? That means it's legit, right? So to me, it's actually very good that there are people like TaskRabbit out there, HomeJoy is out there, so many services delivering maid services and so on, they're all out there. The shared economy is picking up steam, right? So it's a validation. And so you look for validation points, maybe not direct competition.
Perfect. Go ahead.
So you said you always done the VC funded companies.
This one was angel. Yeah, I've taken a bunch of angel money this time.
Right. What is good? Bootstrapping and scaling up, or just go for the VC funding?
Depends. If it's a big idea, go for VC funding. Okay. If you're going to build a lifestyle business, bootstrap it. Nothing wrong with that, right? I know a lot of entrepreneurs who bootstrapped from $0 to $200 million, right? A lot, not just 1 or 2. I know at least 8 or 10 that have taken companies well over $200 million by bootstrapping. So nothing wrong with that model either, okay? But if it's a run fast idea, big scale, causing a discontinuity in the market, then go for venture funding.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Awesome, Ramni.
That's it.
This was amazing.
Oops.
Sorry. Great. Okay, so let's kind of put it all in perspective. So okay. So basically, if you look at it, you know, the reason why you're doing your BMC is really to figure out kind of, you know, how this whole thing is going to work. So what you heard from Ramneek was that, you know, he didn't even know what a BMC was. Actually, I did not know what a BMC was till I started teaching entrepreneurship courses. I had no idea that it existed. And yet, when I read about the BMC, I realized that intuitively, I was using the BMC all the time. In fact, the thinking process of what the BMC involves is something that an entrepreneur does pretty much all the time. Every year, as you decide that, okay, what are going to be your objectives for the next 12 months? You're essentially going through the BMC. Or the competitor came and made some competitive moves, or you're going to make some competitive moves. You are going to go through the same BMC mindset. Or, for example, when your product evolves from generation 1 to generation 2 to generation 3, essentially, all the elements of the BMC is something that's going on in your head. And we never put it down on a piece of paper. And we just basically thought it through, spent a lot of sleepless nights, and then we got the team together, got them to agree. And essentially what we got them to agree was the first two steps, which is, why this particular change in the business environment and in the business model that we have for the company is going to work. And that is because of this thing called customer discovery. And that's the process that, we want all of you to do on your BMC right now. Because one thing that you probably saw from Ramneek's case, as well as from AGK's case, the speaker who came last week, who started those two companies, is that one way or the other, they found some customer who really helped them fine-tune the product, the strategy, and sometimes they meshed so well with the customer that he was willing to give them the check even to develop the product, right? The meshing happened, right? Because the customer could not find anybody else to do it. So customer discovery is, what we are going to go with. And you always start off with a hypothesis. And Ramneek can tell me whether this is true or not, but what I heard was that in the last few quarters before they sold the find, they were talking to the customers and they started seeing a pattern emerging, which was staffing at Costco, staffing at Home Depot, etc. And they could see that, this was an unsolved problem. It's a highly automated world that's emerging based on the internet and mobile platform and cloud and everything else. But there's a whole bunch of people in the real world that are not using these tools, because LinkedIn is only for the professionals. The other tools are not being applied for the blue-collar workers, for the temp workers, for etc. And if you look at most companies, half their employee base might be these kinds of people. And those people are being recruited or they are finding jobs for themselves, and they're doing the career planning in the most inefficient way possible, right? But it's something that they found out through a real customer. And it wasn't probably the target of the find itself, but because they are in the space, they started hearing things over and over again, which helps them gel their need. And then you say, is this need big enough to build a company on? And is this idea big enough to build a company on? And that's your BMC. Then you validate it using customer discovery. And then you do this customer validation process. So what is, and then you don't start really investing money or going to VCs to invest money till you are absolutely sure that your BMC hangs in together. No matter what question or what problem or issue somebody throws at you, you can say, good question. When I was talking to this customer, this is what he told me, or this is what I read on the internet that validated some assumption that you had made, etc. So you have an answer for why that business model is all going to stick together, why it's all going to work. So once you've finished off all of that customer discovery and customer validation, now you're ready to write your business plan. Business plan is basically 12 slides approximately. These are the 12 things. Almost every business plan will have this stuff, one way or the other, maybe in a slightly different sequence, but approximately this is the right sequence. And once you've done your customer discovery, customer validation, this will just fall out. And then it's just a question of polishing it, preparing it, fleshing it out so it becomes a high impact solution. Okay, and I think Ramneek probably gave one of the best explanations of how he ended up developing his social marketing strategy for the Find. Because here was a company that was changing its business model from a web-based model to which meant that instead of getting users, he needed customers, people who are going to actually download his app and then start doing transactions on the app, I suppose. Right?
Traffic versus users.
Yeah, traffic versus
Users, but unknown people.
Yeah, well, I think that it's a bigger step for somebody to download your app and then become a registered user as a part of the Find, right? So you got to go through 2 steps in a sense before you start using the product, but it's a stickier thing because once you get him, he's more likely to keep using the Find once it works for him. Yeah, go ahead.
As part of your business plan, you have financials covered over there. So
Right.
when you validate your customer, do you validate along with your potential pricing?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the whole thing, which is that as you validate your customer, these are real people, right? And you can always go and ask them, if I provided you something with this value proposition, with this functionality, this features, this capability, etc., what would be a good price for it? You'd also know your competition. So you can also figure out where you fit in. You fit in the high end, medium, mid-range, low end. Is your approach, one price for all? Or is it like value pricing? All those decisions become so much easier when you have real people giving you the answers. And then when you write your business plan, it becomes very clear cut. It's value based, so I'm going to need salespeople, or it's just based on lowest price, kind of approach. What I need to do is a lot of marketing, very little direct selling. So the model, where you're going to spend your money, how you're going to spend it, what's going to be messaging, all of that kind of falls out as you go through this process. And we'll cover this in the next session. But the great thing that Ramneek explained was that they spent 1.5 years trying to figure out, which social media approaches were the right ones for them. And they did not just, go ahead and they did the market survey because, every social media platform has their marketing team, salespeople. You can always bring them in. They will educate you. So you don't have to actually do your own education. Everybody wants to sell, right? I mean, when I was at Dino, we had people come, we had inbound calls from Facebook, LinkedIn, everybody, because they're trying to find people who will use their services too, right? So you just call them in, they educate you, they give you all the stuff, they give you the tools, they give you, the ability to do your testing, maybe even without having to pay for it on their platform, because ultimately they want a long-term customer. They're not looking for one transaction either. So he did a survey of all the social media platforms as it applied to their market need. Then he actually came up with some hypotheses. Maybe Facebook would work for women in this range, or Twitter will work for people in this range, on this territory, or whatever it is. Came up with a hypothesis. You design some experiments, and then he would actually spend the $10,000, $20,000 a month, and then, believe it or not, you get some insight. You learn something that other people that you can't just read a book and get the insight. The insight that you get from a practical experience is worth its weight in gold. It's the one that really matters. And then you're ready to kind of refine it, improve it, change it further, etc. So let me spend about 10 or 15 minutes kind of giving you specific ways in which I did customer discovery for my companies, right? So I've told you about the Selectica story, configuration company and so on. And, we had a technologist, Dr. Mittal, who was doing configuration, was a guru in the industry for 15 years. He had written all the papers that people were building configuration systems on. And after a year and a half, we were just not succeeding in getting even one customer. They would look at our staff, but we wouldn't get any would not get any POs, right? So as an entrepreneur, you have to start visiting the customer along with the salespeople. And so I remember dropping in on Siemens, which was just luckily just down the road. And they used to build all these telecom equipment, complex telecom equipment for that they would sell to AT&T and everybody else, and very complex stuff. So they obviously needed a configurator and so on. And I went there, and there was this German guy called Klaus Strassmann, 60-year-old guy, and we told him we had a great configurator. So he said, "Come in, show us the stuff." And obviously, we had the world's best configurator. It was technologically the best. And we showed him, and it was really the best. And he was suitably impressed. But he said, "Thank you, but I can't use your product." And give you the PO. And since I was there in the meeting, I said, "We are the best. We can solve problems that nobody else can solve in this configuration space. Why aren't you going to use us?" So he says that, to use your configurator, I would need to hire engineers to create the model for my equipment before it can be processed by your configurator. So I'm not going to hire engineers to model every time I come up with a new card or a new feature or whatever, and then I'm going to write a piece of code to feed into your configurator. And so I come back to my team and say that, we've got the greatest configurator and all that, but, he's not going to hire engineers to write the model for their products to feed into our configurators. So we got all the engineers who were working on the configurator and said, instead of writing and keeping on improving our configurator, we're going to write a model builder so that you can just enter your product into this as a data entry process, and it'll automatically generate the model that the configurator would work on. And so forth. And I called up and they said, yes, they can do it. It'll take them 90 days, because we took the whole engineering team and redirected them. We kind of pivoted the team and basically told Klaus Strassmann that, I am going to do this, whatever. And he said, sure, if you can do it, show it to me. And 90 days later, he was not expecting me to call him, but I said, we've got a model builder. And so we showed up there, and yes, the model builder was working, and we took some of his products right in front of him. We entered the thing into the model builder. It automatically generated the model, and our configurator machine worked. And then I said, ready to buy? Where's the PO? And he says, no, I cannot buy your product. So I said, why not? He said that, yes, it'll enter it, but, my requirement is that my configurator does not stand alone. It should actually, I don't want to take the output of your configurator and then manually enter it into my SaaS system, in my MRP system. It has to be seamlessly integrated, your configurator into that. And I looked at my engineers and said, I said, what kind of system do you have? And he had a SAP system. And all of Siemens is standardized on SAP, being a German company, right? So I said, we had no SAP experts, etc. But went back, I said, can I call you back? So I went back to my team and I said, this guy needs to have a configurator that integrates with the backend system that they run their whole company on. So can we do that? So the team went, researched, looked at middleware, all that stuff, and said, yeah, we can get it done in 90 days. So I pivoted the team, okay, get off the model builder and let's get the sucker integrated into SAP and Oracle and everything so that, and I called up this guy and said, okay, in 90 days, I'll have it done, So he said, okay, come, show it to me. So 90 days later, we go back and it's integrated, and now the configuration goes all the way into his SAP system, and said, okay, what about the PO now? He said that, there's no way I can buy a product. How do I know? There's no reporting. There's nothing that tells management, how many orders came in, what kind of products people are buying. What is this? I'm going to write a program in order to figure out what kind of orders and everything is coming in. So I went back to my company and said, same thing repeated, and we wrote a reporting system. So took the engineers, redirected them into writing a reporting system. Same thing, came back, and then he said, he said, I still can't give you the order. So now it's 12 months have gone by. I've changed the whole team from a configuration company to a middleware integration company to a model building company to a reporting company and then he said, it needs to be an easy to use tool. Because he said, I'm not going to have engineers, using your configurator. It needs to be salespeople who use the configurator. And that automatically generate, sales quotes and all that stuff. So I said, can you give me a spec as to, so you give me all the Siemens documentation about how salespeople enter their orders in and, what kind of reports they want and all that stuff. So give me all that stuff. Again, got the engineering team to do it. And this time, so now, in 15 months, we had redirected the product and got all of this stuff done. But it was truly now beginning to look like an enterprise quality business application, right? All of a sudden, from a configurator, we were integrated with backend systems. We had an easy-to-use builder. We had reporting system and all that good stuff. And so I went back to him and said, now ready to give me the order? He says, I've already given it to your competition because they had it all. They had easy to use. They had this integrated. Well, a company that had been started 5 years before Calico Systems. So I asked how much. He said, I gave them $1 million for their system. Now, we knew that their basic configurator was weak because that's where our expertise was originally. So we knew that configurator was weak. So I said, look, I've done all this stuff for you. Can you give me a chance to see their product? He says, I won't let you touch it, but you can see the product, because I said that, I think they've got some major problems and I'd like to report them to you. So he basically had one of his apps engineers drive the Calico configurator, and I took my VP of engineering and my team, and we went there, and we knew where we thought their problems would be in their configurator. So we asked them to put in certain set of rules, and it failed. Certain set of rules, and finally ended up with 6 different areas where this thing failed. Where, so I found the 6 key weaknesses of my competition at the same time. So now, not only did I have probably a fully finished enterprise app, but also one which had the best configurator, but I also knew the weaknesses of my competition, right? Strategic weaknesses of my competition. So, but we've not been in the market for 18 months because I said, what's the point of marketing? Because the next guy is also going to say your backend is not done. Another guy is going to say your model building is not done. So I told my whole company, we are not going to do any marketing, sales, etc. Till everything works, until we know we've got a product that can sell, right? So, and then basically RFQ, request for quote, opens up with GE Medical Systems in Milwaukee for big MRI systems, right? They make MRI equipment. And, so we walk in there, and then we both build, pilots, etc. And they rule out everybody else except Calico and Selectica, which came as a shock to Calico that here's Selectica that they had not seen in the market for 18 months was there in competition with them. So they immediately gave Siemens as a reference. And because Siemens had evaluated Selectica and Calico and given the order to Calico. And obviously, they got Klaus confirmed that the order went to Calico and so on. And so basically my sales guy lost heart and said, basically we lost the deal because of this. I said, just set up a meeting for me with the CIO. So I go in there and along with my sales guy, meet the CIO and said that, your pilot was an easy pilot for both of us to do. We, had an easy, both of us are model builder, both of us can integrate, both of us can do all of this. But really, what you need is a product that can really do configuration the right way. And let me tell you 6 things that you need to test in Calico's configurator. I said, check for this thing, check for this thing, check for this thing, check for this thing. And obviously fail. So I said that your pilot really did not test all the stuff that you really will face in the real world. And, clearly we won that order. And the point is that after winning that order, I started now having reference customers also. And I knew how to beat Calico. So I brought in my whole sales team, got my case, set this up as a case study for all of them as to how to win in the marketplace against Calico. And I said that if any of you ever lose to Calico again, you're fired, because it means that you guys don't know how to sell. And the point is that, we won every deal after that. In fact, Calico went and got bankrupt at that point because they could never win against us. We basically took every deal. But the point is that you can see that, the customer discovery process, really, do you think I could have really figured out how to integrate with the backend sitting in my office? How to build a model builder sitting in my office? How to create an easy-to-use tool? How to write reports? I couldn't know what's going on with the competition. You can never get that information sitting in your office. Nobody's going to tell you, but you have to get it from out there in the field, right? And you get it from out there in the field only once you build a relationship. Thanks, Rami. Yeah, go ahead.
So a question.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were writing this spec for your product in a bits and pieces. You go back to the customer says, do this. Yeah. Then you go back again and do this.
Yeah.
A lesson could be that, all those requirements could have been talked about in your first meeting with them.
Unfortunately, I think what happens in real life is that it's like peeling an onion. It's never like, I think if I'd taken all the requirements at one shot and put it in front of my VP of engineering, it would have collapsed. We would have decided not to do the company at all. because to do an 18-month project is very risky. You know, it's much more easier to keep a team motivated in a much more targeted way, and to get here, like, you know, you know, I didn't tell the full story, but basically, like, you know, Klaus was cooperating with me. I would say, okay, what's an easy model builder? Is this spec good? You know, so there's a lot of interaction that happens with the customer once you develop a relationship. And, you know, to get something that's validated by a real customer who's been in business for 10, 15 years, it's like gold. It's like priceless, right? So
even though he did not give you the order, he gave you all the things that you needed.
everything I needed. But the thing is, he did it because of two reasons, I believe. One is, you know, he was a German, and that's important. He's a perfectionist. Germans are perfectionists. Have you ever seen everything has to be right, even if he's your competition, or he wants you to be right, you know? So, you know, if I'd gone to somebody else, it would have been different, right? But, you know, so he was German in one case. So cultural. I think the second thing was, most vendors, small companies, they say something and never deliver. So when he would put in the effort or tell his manufacturing people, give them all the interface spec requirements to integrate with the SAP system, those guys have to do work. They have to print out documents. They've got to give us access for testing, etc., into their backend system. It doesn't just happen, right? So basically, like, you know, I mean, he became a friend, actually. Even though he was using my competitor's product,
He was challenging.
he was challenging, like more like a teacher. He was older, 60-year-old man, you know. So there was, and you'll probably find that once you get involved with business, you will find such people. They are there. And we'll see that there's a special name for them, and the name is early evangelist. So these are people that love cutting edge technology, that love to help small companies that are at the cutting edge, because they want to believe that though they are stuck inside Siemens or some other company, they're still having an influence on the whole industry. Because Selectica, you know, from there, we got Cisco as a customer, we got Dell as a customer, we got Aetna, we got Hitachi, we had, you know, the things that he did for us, all that learnings and knowledge actually spread worldwide through us, right? And, you know, I obviously took care of him way, in spite of the fact that he didn't give us the order, you know, kept that relationship going. And so that's one thing. So product requirements can come from an early evangelist. Yeah, go ahead.
How did you manage your investors and cash flow that period? I mean, that's really like 18 months perfect, but like, how do you keep that running?
Yeah, so, you know, it's a long, it was a very long duration, and it's very, very difficult and not so easy. And, you know, there were times where basically the board wanted to get rid of me because, you know, I would say that as soon as we get this feature right, we're going to win the order. And then finally, we got everything done and we lost the order to the competition for $1 million. But, you know, you have to basically keep saying that, look, you lost it, but look at, you know, how much progress we have made. And, you know, we would have never been able to make this progress without all of this help that we got. So we are much further ahead than we would have been otherwise. So they have to believe in. And, you know, if your VP of engineering, your whole team is behind you, and you kept them involved in the decision process and everything, it's not just, you know, it can basically they can't fire the whole company. Sometimes, you know, they will shut it down, but, you know, hopefully they did not. Oh, we were about, you know, 50, 60 people. Yeah. Yeah.
In effect, in that particular case, right, you would not succeeding with an MVP. You actually had to develop the whole thing.
Yeah. This is way past the MVP process. This is not validation process. This is actually showing this is about customer discovery for a real product, right? You've gone past because we had already raised close to about $5 or $6 million, and we were moving way ahead. Yeah.
So you pointed about the weaknesses of the competitor's product. So at some point they would have made progress in getting rid of those weaknesses.
Excellent point. So what happens is that sometimes bugs are fundamental. So they would have to throw out their full-fledged old configurator and come up with a new configurator. And so it was a fundamental problem that we knew existed in their product, but which they could mask, right? In anything, you can solve a problem using just database search or whatever it is, and or you can solve it in the right way. And so basically, once a company is successful, it's very hard for them to redo and tell everybody that what they had was a problem. You can see that happening on a lot of cases. I mean, look at what's happening to Cisco right now. They're having a problem with their hardwired routers suddenly being obsoleted with the software-driven routers, right? And one would say that they knew it was coming for the last 8 years. It's been in the press. It's been everywhere. And why didn't they do it? It's a 3-year engineering job, but they still didn't do it. So people do get stuck in a rut. And that's an opportunity for any disruptive change coming along for a startup to get a foot in the door in existing markets. So that's a very specific situation of breaking in, leveraging disruption in technology platform to enter the big existing market. Yeah.
Question. Were you just basically morphing your product based off feedback of that one customer, or were you talking to other prospects as well?
Well, we had a pipeline, but we were not getting POs. We were failing. And as a CEO of a startup, you have to go and really find out why you're not getting, right? If I'd left it to a sales guy, you think he would have hung in there with Siemens? He would not have, because that's not his job to hang in there. But as an entrepreneur, it's your job to figure out, is it a problem with the product? Is it a problem with the marketing? Is it a problem with the selling? Is it a problem with the pricing? Is it a problem with delivery? Where is the real problem that is preventing your company from succeeding? And only the founder or the CEO can, as I think Ramneek said, be brutally honest and say that, look, my assumptions were wrong, or this was not going to work. Yeah.
And even if he knew, no one is going to listen to him.
Nobody's going to listen to him either. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And he was not going to get commission for 18 months and all that stuff. So his job is to sell what you got, right? I'll go to another quick way to get information. So even before Siemens, we got this big request for quote from Sun, 200-page document. And here's an 18-month-old company, and we get a RFP for a configurator for a 200-page document, And, in this particular case, I would say that if you're building an enterprise-level product, that's what you want to get your hands on. Because in that RFP, they're almost writing a product spec. The RFP becomes your product spec with modifications and with, because so the thing is that, even though we were not ready, we bid on the Sun RFQ process, and we hardwired some piece of code, and we did this and that, and because fundamentally we had a good configurator, and again, we were the finalists this time, not with Calico, but with the number one guy in this market that we were going after Trilogy was the biggest guy, and Calico was the next guy, and then there were like 4 or 5 other small guys like Selectica. So in the Sun case, basically Trilogy and Selectica started competing on the pilot, etc. And clearly, when you get an RFP of this size, your team is going to have to work like crazy because they are, continuously, using many different ways in order, sometimes open source, sometimes thirdware, middleware, whatever, in order to patch together a solution. So, they all worked very fast, and we ended up still losing the deal. And, we went in with $3 million for the quote, and the competition, Trilogy, quoted $27 million, and they got the deal. Even though the engineering team recommended us because they knew that the hardest portion was actually the configuration engine, not the icing on the cake and all the other stuff. But for a CIO, safety and security becomes the primary concern. So the CIO ended up choosing Sun. And at that point, my biggest issue was actually how to keep my team motivated in spite of having worked night and day for 12 months. And so, you kind of bring the whole team together and get them to realize that in the 12 months, we've made probably 3 years of progress, even though we didn't win the deal. And that, the market is big. There's going to be lots of opportunities to win. And the progress that we've made in 12 months is going to pay off. And so I think between the Sun RFQ and then the product requirements that we got from Siemens, we ended up having probably, the best configurator as well as the best end-to-end solution. And, that's how, after that, we won everything. We won Cisco's deal, Dell's deal, $10 million license fees from everybody. And, that's how we got our $5 billion valuation when we went public finally, because we were the only company that all the big companies had decided to standardize on, right? So, yeah.
I have kind of a strange question on, like, in terms of, how did you guys figure out how much you were going to charge for, if you're running into those issues, like, how does the cost piece work out?
That is an excellent question, because in the discovery process, not just product requirements. You have the system requirements we talked about, product requirements, but there's also pricing requirements. What kind of after-sales support you should give them, what kind of maintenance fee should you charge them. All of these things are there. And, most entrepreneurs have never dealt with that side of any business. They've all dealt with the technology side, typically. Even in the marketing guys, not worked with the business side of the whole thing, right? So in our particular case, what happened is that, we had, what happened was that our competitor ended up firing the VP of sales for sexual harassment. And this guy, was out of a job because of the sexual harassment case. He was senior VP of sales. He had run all the business for Calico at all the big telcos and so on. And he was out of a job. And, he knows who the competition is. So I get his resume in my email box, right? My email has this guy. And I said, sure, come on in. So I bring the guy in, and he knows the business inside out. So I hired him. So I said, why do I care whether he's being sued? He's good at sales, at least. He's good at selling. I don't have any women in my company that, he's going to go after or whatever. He's probably going to be cautious about that stuff anyway. So I hired him. And, what happens next is a very important lesson for a startup, because the one thing that a startup cannot afford is a lawsuit. The minute you're hit with a lawsuit, you are going to be so distracted. Your reputation is going to be so messed up in the industry that, you got sued, it's in the press, you got sued for whatever it is. It doesn't matter what you're sued for. You're completely, your reputation is shot, and nobody wants to deal with a startup with a lawsuit on their head, right? And your investors also get freaked out. So I get this letter from Calico saying that, you hired my VP of sales, and, you're basically trying to steal all our trade secrets about our product, about our customers, about this, about that. And so I get this nice long legal letter. And my VC investors, I just an A round of funding by that time. Obviously I had to share it with them. And, they were saying, oh no, we are going to fight them and this and that. But having run other companies before this, I realized that, this is very dangerous time, because if I bring in my own lawyers, I hire the best legal team. Most of the money that I have, the $1 million that I have, is going to be spent on fighting this, lawyers fighting against each other, right? So, and distraction on top of that, which is what Calico wanted to do to us. And so, I told my lawyers, I don't want you to be in my negotiations, and I'm going to call and talk directly to Calico's CEO. And so I lobbed, and they were saying, you're crazy, this should be done by lawyers, you guys will say something that'll mess it up. I said, no, first I want to talk directly to face-to-face with the business side, with the CEO of the other company. And so I call him up, and their lawyers had also advised Calico's CEO not to talk to me, but I said, you can keep your lawyer on the line if you want. I don't care. I'll just talk. I've got, I said, look, you fired the guy for this particular thing. He reached out to me. California is a, equal employment state or something like that.
And also at will.
At will state and this like that. So I give all my, but they know all the logic either, right? So, so I said, what do you really care about? So, this guy said, look, my VP of sales knows my pipeline. Ex-VP of sales knows the pipeline. He knows my current customers. He knows what prices they've been sold product to, etc. So I said, okay, give me a list of all the customers that you care about, and for 2 years, I will not call on them. I knew I could not call on them anyway. I was not ready to compete head-to-head at that time. So, he sent me a list of, 15, 20 customers, and I said, yep, we will not call on these guys for the next 2 years. And, basically, that was the end of all that legal stuff. So basically, but what's interesting, addressing your question, is that prior to that, we had no idea what to charge for this stuff. It's a piece of software. So, one way or the other, we had got a deal at SN Communications in East Bay, and we charged them $25,000 for the product. And then I hired this VP of sales from Calico, and he said, oh, for configuration, the starting point is $250,000. And I said, okay, if you know how to get $250,000 for this software, go for it. The crazy thing is that, if you get a good VP of, a good sales guy who knows the market, who's got his connections, who knows everything, and who knows the value of what he's selling, in less than 3 months, he had brought me 3 orders for more than $250K, like $1 million backlog I got in 3 months. So, And then, he said that you really don't make money only on the license, but you make money on the maintenance fee, which is 25% of the license fee for the next 2 years. And things like, I mean, you're a CIO, you know everything about how this game is played. And so basically, sometimes in order to learn the business side of it, one way or the other, you got to get your hands on people from the inside in that industry. You can get an Accenture sales guy, you can get a competitor sales guy. And the good thing about most businesses is that sales guys are easy to hire, because every 2 years, there's a huge amount of turnover that happens. 30% or 40% of all sales guys change jobs. So for whatever reason, they've not succeeded or in that particular market segment, or they've hit a bad patch or whatever, but they know the industry, they've been there, they've got the contacts. So, you can go ahead and, get the information from people who are inside the industry. So that's the best way to get it. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, so when you, because you guys had already developed or been developing the product for a while, let's say under the assumption that you're going to be able to charge, say, 25 or something along those lines. So now when you hire this new guy, he comes to this insider, tells you, and he's obviously proving that you can get much more money from it. Because your business model is based on a much smaller, is your business model up to that point based on a much smaller, like?
Yeah, we thought that there'll be lots of customers, and 25K multiplied by lots of customers was good money. What we found is that, there were few customers, but they needed a lot more hand-holding, a lot of after-sales support, etc., and integration into the backend systems and reports and everything. So it's like what the Siemens guy taught us. And so it's really the semi-customization of a product plus the hand-holding. So you can only, so actually for the same product, a year later, we were selling it for $1 million license fee. And 2 years later, we were selling it for $10 million license fee. So IBM paid $10 million, Cisco paid $10 million, Dell paid $10 million, Aetna paid $10 million. So people paid $10 million. Samsung paid $10 million in Korea. So the thing is that for the same software, no new software, you can get the same software for $10 million, or you can get for $1 million, or you can get for $250K. Same software. Depends on how much you have in your pocket. But actually, what you really get is the support. The fact that, when Cisco bought for $10 million, they actually got, 30 apps engineers and customization engineers who work to seamlessly integrate our configurator into their entire custom backend manufacturing system. So as soon as you enter the order, it does, bomb explosion and automatically flows into Foxborough's system and this guy's system and all the outsourcing houses system. It automatically changes all the part numbering and everything and sends it out and reconciles it and all that stuff. So you really get something that is appropriate to the price. Yeah. Okay, so again, these are examples of how you do customer discovery. So I already talked about the last one, hiring the VP of sales from the competition. You can also do that through partnerships. When you make a partnership, partners will give you a ton of information, right? So you can get a lot of information from that. So customer discovery actually happens in many, many different ways. And everything depends on your particular situation. So you just have to do it. And then in terms of market discovery, with Dino, my last company, we tried everything. We tried to do what the competition was doing. We tried to do what the industry analyst companies were saying, what Gartner was saying, but could not come up with a good BMC in a sense. Good BMC. Could not come up with a good business model where the market would grow, revenue would grow, customers would grow, usage would grow. Just could not come up with something that will allow us to grow to create a company that grows, right, in a profitable way. here we are, 3 years old company, and we had still not got a viable business model. Almost, 10, $12 million had gone into the company and still struggling to find a BMC for it. And then I suddenly get this call from the small TV streaming company in Cochin, India. The guy called me on a Saturday and says that he's used some of my demonstration tools on my website, which had downloaded and done some trial streaming, and says it works pretty good. He says, can you help me stream TV channels to all the Malayali people all over the world? And there's like 500,000 Malayalis from Kerala, one state of India, that want to watch their soap operas and TVs and serials and so on. And so I said, how much will you get for this? He says, I'll charge for 12 TV channels, I'll charge them $20 a month, and I'll pay you $5 a month. And I said, so I multiplied, even if he gets 20% market penetration, 100,000 people, $5 a month, $500,000 every month, I'm a $6 million streaming company. And that too profitable, 50% gross margin at least. And all of a sudden, I had a viable business model. And so the more I multiplied everything, it all seemed to make sense. And I said, if one state of India can have this, we've got 26 states in India, then we've got 192 countries out there, and there are, so much diaspora out there, 200 million diaspora in the world. And if all of them give me $5 a month, I could be a big company. I just have to do it right. And so the next day, Monday, I got the whole company together and told them this strange call I'd got from on Saturday at home, showed them the opportunity, and this guy, got the whole company pivoted from doing streaming to writing a billing system to customer acquisition system, reporting system, all of the stuff around streaming, where previously we were just focused on how to make the streaming more efficient and this and that. All the supporting business processes had to work before you become a dish equivalent for ethnic channels, right? And within 6 months, we had not only this guy, but since we now had the whole platform, I ended up, getting 600 TV channels from 60 countries, and we were just exploding. And so, you can get market discovery from, but you got to get it from people with real needs. I mean, I must have talked to so many different customers, but if the BMC a viable BMC doesn't pop up, it doesn't pop up. You just got to throw it out. I mean, I streamed Miss California competition, couldn't make money there. I streamed, Indian marriages, didn't work there. Birthday parties, didn't work there. Thai Detroit. I did Thai streaming. I did every streaming under the world, but nothing would result in a viable BMC. And the BMC is really what an entrepreneur is, has to thinking night and day to get it to work, right? And so anyway, so these are, ways in which you do your customer discovery. Everybody is going to have a different approach, but it really has to come from outside, from real customers or real people with real problems, but with money to spend, that will end up helping you create a profitable business, right? Okay, so so let's take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll go through the BMCs of the rest of the people. Yeah? Okay, thanks, guys. Okay, shall we upload?
We need to
Hmm?
Yeah, you have that list.
That's what we put in that one, right? 100. Yeah. That's why we put so
Sorry, Raj.
Yeah.
I was late.
Yeah, no problem.
I had a meeting in San Francisco.
Oh, okay. No, I saw you walking in. Yeah. But the class is there. All the material is there on the YouTube on air.
Okay, I grab it.
Yeah, just grab it. Yeah. Yeah.
When was the interview with
Did you call her?
I have her contact information.
Just give her a call.
Okay.
You give her a call
Okay.
and invite her to the next class.
Okay.
I want you to say something. What do you want to cover?
I want these two young entrepreneurs. They need to be given some ideas. Like
They have their own ideas. That's why they're sitting here.
Josh.
अरे उन लोगों में ज़्यादा जोश है यार compared to everybody else.
While you all fuddy-duddies are talking about, BMC.
That's what they're doing here.
They go for the teenage segment.
That's what they do. Yeah, of course.
Come, something.
That is why we allowed them to the class.
Right.
Exactly.
You're boring them, yeah?
I'm not boring them.
Yeah.
क्या बोलता है यार?
They have Maharashtra something. Bombay Municipal Corporation. See, they have water, electricity, and garbage control. Shut any of them off.
Okay. Okay. Which one is your list?
Hey,
Nahi?
this is for
Huh.
Ramnik.
I can.
Huh?
This is for Ramnik. This is the European part-time.
Send it to him, na?
Can we put this in?
Or you can send it to me and I'll send
Yeah.
it. Send me the URL.
You have place
Do
for
you
this?
want
Yeah.
me to say anything today?
Why don't I give you a separate slot next time? Yeah. Because then I want you to tell your story properly. Which one do you want to talk about?
Use your customer discovery
Okay.
word
Okay.
because how I'm doing this.
Okay. So do you want customer discovery for your new company or the old company?
Yeah, that's where there is a different approach of that. Like, how am I finding your yoga source? How did I find that?
Okay.
But how did I
It's not reading.
come up with? Which I used to consider competition, but now it is a possibility of partnership.
Yeah.
Therefore, how do you do that?
Not recognized.
How do you NASA came in?
Not recognized. Okay.
Okay.
Then we can go to the site that we have.
Oh no, hang on. I just read it. Which one?
Go to a tie, right tie. And then Rev 7, this one.
That's it?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm something.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll catch up. Okay.
Therefore, if I'm not good meeting you, talking today, then I may.
We'll do that right now. Yeah.
I may
Forgot,
come
yeah.
some other day. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It's the next meeting because not in the last meeting. Come in the next meeting.
Tomorrow, Friday.
No, it'll be next Tuesday.
No, Tuesday only. You have Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, not Friday.
No. Yeah. File. Open. Desktop. This one, right? Let's cannot open the file because
File extension is not valid.
how come?
Well, this has Excel, but XLX. This is not this one.
It's not taking it.
Yeah, I posted it there.
Oh, you put on the website? Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. And let's see if it opens up in there. It is in one of the posts.
Oh, it's in the post? Okay.
Right here.
This one?
Yeah. This has a X at the end, and maybe that is why it is not opening.
Yeah, this one open. I don't know what's going on.
So these are the teams. Let's recognize which ones already had gone through. Bold canvas. I don't think that guy is still here today.
Well, why don't we just go past one by one? We just tell them. Take your sim.
I
Yeah.
sent my most recent copy of the BMC.
2. Okay, let's download it then.
That is only a list of the candidates. It does not have their BMCs. Have they sent you the BMC?
Which one? Happy hour? Which one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you send get it. Okay, let's see. I should probably just download all of them. Download. Then rent a roof updated. Download. And sensor tech. Auto lock. What was your name again?
It was yesterday.
BMC forget it?
Yes.
Download. Great. So we got 5. 5 left?
Looks like that, yeah.
What is this? But anyway, accept नहीं करता. Google. I went through Google Chrome also. It won't accept me. I put in all my information. I do everything, and it says we'll check you and get back to you or something like that. That's what it's done up at.
Okay, you know what? Let's just delete you from everything.
Thanks a lot.
And start all over again.
Then what? Okay. Maybe that might be better.
Yeah, that's probably the only hope, I think. Cannot believe this.
I just have a crazy question, but I didn't want to ask you at that time.
Yeah.
But when you hired that guy who already had a case, don't you think you were putting your company at line too?
Well, the thing is, what happens when you hire such people who have got something like this? 2 things can happen. If they are absolutely bad, or they have just made a mistake.
Okay.
Right? And
And sometimes it may not be true also, you know. Sometimes
no,
may
it
go a
was
little overboard.
probably
Okay.
true.
Okay.
Because, you know, it was his secretary in Chicago that he was fooling around with. So RINI, right?
No, it's REENA is my full name, and Rini RI.
I've got
Do you
one
think
Rini 1000.
Rini 1000 is me, and one you have Rini.Johar. Maybe is that why the problem occurred? Okay, what's going on?
Let's just find out. I'm
Okay.
just going to search.
Rini is me. Yeah. RINI. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to delete this guy, okay?
I think you're not sending me at that one. So Rini ko kabhi mila hi nahi. And then we did Rini.Johar at Gmail.
Okay, I'm going to delete this.
Okay, delete me. That doesn't sound so nice. Delete.
It's never been seen.
Just kidding.
Remove from course.
Okay. And Rini.Johar, you want to check that too? Because what will happen is, I don't know what. Rini.
Okay, no matches. Okay, so let's see.
Okay.
How do you spell it?
RINI, the same. .Johar@gmail.com.
Okay, found that.
Yeah.
But here you're logged in, but you want to remove that also.
Okay. Okay.
Simple, right?
Right.
Okay, so now.
I'm just waiting to
Hang on,
see a video.
Okay, so okay.
The dispatcher, right? And we will try to monetize as much as possible by sending
Oh, what is
analytics. And at $50 a month and 55%, we're looking at 17 million.
No.
So that's what it's a year, right?
Okay, it's unenrolled you.
Okay.
So now. Oh, there's a Rini no dot. Just a Rini job.
Acha, who did that?
Okay, let's remove that.
Okay. I never got a Rini without a dot.
But you are a part of that.
Yes. Rini.Johar is me.
Okay, so we got all of that done.
You said Hotmail is
Rini.
No, it's Rini.Johar.
No, I'm just trying to find this one.
Okay.
Because
otherwise, if I just show my, it's necessary.
It's necessary. Otherwise, they don't understand the reason why
Just show some sort
Doesn't matter. Okay, sure.
I cannot remove you.
What can I do? You want to make a special one for me? Different one?
Okay, you have another username?
Hotmail चलेगा? Rini 1000 को वापस नहीं लाना है. Yeah, RINI 1000. That's the one which I see the most. Because it got so famous with Sabir.
Okay, so no
he introduced me to it and then.
Okay, so let's try that.
Yeah.
Which group are you in?
Send in, right?
Right.
Okay, invitation sent. So
Right.
now we'll
I'll
do,
go.
No, don't go
Okay.
there. I'm going to try and get you to log in right here.
Okay.
So
Go to
if I go
Hotmail.
to
Hotmail.com. I'll go Rini 1000. Password. Rini 1000. I'll tell you my password too. It's okay. I don't think you have the time to go in Dubai. It's NIHAL 100 at no, Nihal 100. That's it. That's my little nephew. Okay. Where are you? I don't see you. Do you want to see him junk?
Are you kidding?
I don't see you. Refresh भी नहीं किया. No, you're not there.
Look at it next.
Search for you.
Okay.
This is you, right?
Yeah.
Or at least our it's validation for MVP
Wow. Why is it not going out?
What else? You want me to give you my business one, homeopath101@gmail.com?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that one because Hotmail, last time also you were telling me that Hotmail you weren't sure about. Homeopath. H O. You want me to type it? Homeopath.
Homeopath.gmail.
At Gmail. Sorry. I thought I wanted to be one step ahead of you. Okay, Gmail. Yeah. Then we can open that one. But I think Hotmail is not taking you somehow.
Okay, successfully sent.
Huh. Open Gmail. Don't forget to close my Hotmail. Yeah, I don't want it on the screen. Okay. Just kidding.
And that is 700 million per year. That's more than 700 million. How do you
I'll just put my password. Where are you? I don't see you.
Okay, I'm going to have to tell them.
So this is the radio, right? So we know the name of
Oh, there you are. Oh, you came here.
You got on the Hotmail, you got it.
Oh,
Okay, so
thank
let's go
God.
here.
Achha.
Get started.
Right. So the get started part तक मैं आती हूँ.
नहीं,
Then
देख लेते हैं.
ये डालते हैं. फिर गड़बड़ है.
First name is
Rename. RINI. Then last name is Johar. Yeah. So I'll put any password. Let's put any 1000 maybe. Achha.
and this was a Rainy 1000.
Okay.
Same password.
Oh, you maybe one and one just to be on the
Rainy
safe side.
1, Johar 1. Yeah, totally. I want you to be different.
Okay. There, something open.
There you are.
Ah,
So
life is good.
So now, can you go and check on your?
Yeah, I'll go on my Hotmail.
I will.
Okay.
Close out and I'll sign
Okay,
out.
and my homeopath, right? Thank you.
Yeah, he has loaded the rental roof. This rental roof, he wants to make sure this is the latest one that he just sent today.
Sure. No, it is the latest one. It is the latest one. Okay. I just downloaded.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You cannot just remain in the
Physical magazines.
They are the same
One thing that I've learned is unless you do your homework,
Again. Then again, when I go and register.
No, why don't you register? You already have.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Anything? Okay. I did that the last time, but I don't know why. What is my and passport is also in Euro? Yeah, it's the first time I'm here.
You're the business.
All right, thank you, sir.
I don't know how it happened. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, impressive. Like, wow, really. Yeah, you're like, this is and they normally won't go on a long drive. You live out there. 5 years. Broker Caffeine used to be relaxing for me. I could take it 2 hours, let it drift and sleep. Facebook. Not a Twitter. We know Facebook. We know. Now you know the video, right? So now rather than social media, I not do I don't think we have to ask. Okay, yeah. If they ask how will you go with yeah, if they ask how, so that is the question. If suppose they ask, you're going to make money, how are you going to get how will you acquire the information? That's what they not buy the you can get that you know I think it depends on one take a break after watching and get an idea how to you're feeling your livelihood, right? You're actually feeling the livelihood. Think about it. You are in business of growth. Giant maze that comes right in front of you and say, hey, I'm going to give you a free ride. You're not going to be very happy about it. You're like, okay, I'm going to present everything within you. Thursday, I might you know how it works with I have common reaction and it is going to create I also think is yeah you
So Monday or Friday. I prefer this good available on Friday. It's available Thursday. So maybe on
Yes.
Yes, a lot of images. This is HTML and then these are small. If you see this is an HTML web. This is hosted on the server.
I think this is
Oh, you're saying the backside you put it up so that you can see this. Oh, I was seeing the other way. You wanted to see it. Got it. Now makes sense.
Yeah, I wonder if we can send that screenshot. People to see.
So this is a
well,
so this goes from the server. See? So I didn't understand when I said that.
I just meant just you don't have to just enough to still map with the track. Or even sometimes
And I'll make this other part
one line that shows that it is.
Tagline, right? L is L, so it's over here, right? Those tags say tracking, what is load tracking and stack. What is it? Track and stack. Just track and
We created a group.
Okay, guys, I think we better get started.
How will you announce them to attend my story if you don't have your class at the same time? So that is something you'll have to figure out too. The two are co-happening.
No, we are going to move mine to another day.
To another day?
Yeah.
I think that would be best.
We are moving mine to another day.
Yeah. Remember when we were discussing, that's why I said this day won't work out. If you do it another day, that will, but then I'll think. So, okay, if you move it, then your students can attend it as members and non-members. And
I will tell them that.
And then we will not have this issue also.
Huh?
Then we won't have the issue of the recording and still have this option of streaming. If it is here, I don't know. It's not. How easy is it to set it up if it is at some other location?
As long as we just take this.
Are you serious?
Yeah, just have to take this.
Okay,
everybody's got internet.
You'll have to teach me how to do that because I know how to set up
It's a
everything
2-minute
else.
job.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So
Andrew knows it.
but he won't come to our other locations. If we are doing it under right now, we are still trying to find that other location.
I find it so.
But you know, it's particularly nice today over here. It's not that hot.
Not that.
I don't know why we are complaining.
Fans. Okay, guys. Did we do happy hour last time? Huh? You're not done it, right? Okay, happy hour. Okay, 5 minutes. Quick, quick, quick. Okay, where's your team? Okay, two of you. Okay. Yeah, that also.
Hello.
Stand around here. Yeah.
Used to.
Yeah, just turn. So that you understand.
Is it okay?
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, so we are here to talk about happy hour, which is basically using the resources of the businesses to the fullest extent. So the value proposition is, again, we did some market survey on the customer side, particularly on the restaurant. So most of the time they have certain number of hours they operate, and only a few hours out of that total span what is available, they actually get the business. But rest of the time, it's kind of wastage of the resources. So there is a lot of inefficiency in the business, and they don't know what to do about it. So there are different ways they currently try to attract these customers during those hours, but that doesn't work the way it works. So what we are proposing is basically targeted marketing specifically to market those unused resources. And we're going to do multiple ways to attract the customers to the portal, to the application. So we're going to provide this application to the businesses wherein they can provide their particularly the off-peak hours deals per se, and that will market to the consumers which are basically looking for that kind of basically value for the services. So that's again according to the survey done, there is almost like 70% of the consumers are looking for this kind of, even though they don't, actually spend in those hours, but everybody, almost 70% of the consumers are willing to spend money and use those services which they like anyway during those off-peak hours. So we are going to target that specific market space. So how we are going to approach? So basically, the customer segments we have target specifically selected the restaurants being the obvious choice, but obviously it can be utilized for other businesses too. But particularly restaurants being we know the market well, and there is a immediate need for that. So and then we are going to approach to the local businesses or local corporate and the professional groups to market our solution. So once the business has put their offerings on the portal, the consumers can come and we will market to the professional groups or the corporates to get in, buy in and buy the services on the application or the portal. So the customer relationships, we are going to do
using social media. So basically, it's B2B-C market. That's what we are developing. So B2B is basically working with the businesses to come on the our marketplace, and the consumers, which are the customers, which are the actual consumers, which are going to buy the services from the portal. So it's B2B2C marketplace we are targeting. So that's basically social media. Different. We have marketing, analytics. My previous company, we develop user analytics, the different user groups, where they look at what their preferences, their demographics, so we can target on those, particularly on those market segments. And yeah, so Suja will talk about few other things.
Yeah, so I had to, talk about the left side things. But before that, I want to ask you one question, right? How many of you guys go, over a weekend to restaurant with family? Everybody. So what we are trying to do here is something very simple. Maybe this is the simplest company or project you'll see here. So what we are trying to do is, instead of going at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, you go at 10:30 or 11, and we'll have the restaurant pay you back, and we'll take $2 out of that, right? Per family or per head. So we were discussing, there are 400K professionals working in Silicon Valley who is burned out during the week. So we are going to give them a lifestyle alternative. Go to this restaurant, fine dining or whatever, and then we will have the restaurant give you 30% less, just because you go there 1 hour back, 1 hour before the prime time, right? So that's what this happy hour is. So I was just trying to see the revenue streams, how we are trying to position this, right? So the restaurants will pay us back because the employees, they come late, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Instead of that, they'll start coming at 6 o'clock and start cooking, and you will be able to serve people at 10:30 or 11 with whatever. So that's our revenue stream. And the other thing is the sales commission. It's basically we'll sell out coupons that you can go at 10 o'clock and give this, and you will pay less. So on an average, every family will save $10, $15 per this one. Plus the hotels will get more revenue. That's our yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is that? MO?
Mogul.
There's an app called Mogul. They do exactly the same thing. So
okay.
At a restaurant, you can list your spot.
Okay.
Offer the discount, and then you get the cashback.
Yeah. So that is any time, or it's okay. Okay.
That's a market validation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, actually, we were more kind of giving the brunch and early evening kind of thing, where family can hang out, right? That's what.
And also, one of the part is their online and then offline businesses. We are going to connect those two together so that they can efficiently use their resources.
One thing, I'm sorry, but I didn't agree with the idea of because of this you can call your restaurant staff.
No, I mean that's just one way he's saying. You don't have to call. Yeah.
The reason I'm saying, because I'm a part of a restaurant here, so I know that's not. Basically, that doesn't make them come early or something like that.
Oh, the customer?
Yeah. Even the restaurant staff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but we can have 2 batches of employees, right? That's not a. Yeah.
Thank you.
So okay, one more question and then. So your site is going to become popular when you have a rich collection of businesses who are working with you.
Yeah.
Right? And in order for you to get a rich collection and propose your value to the restaurants, you need to have that customer base.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a chicken and egg problem.
Right.
Correct.
How do you plan to solve that?
Yeah, so that's why we are going to start with selected areas and selected businesses or the groups. So we will get the businesses within that selected area to start with, and prove the value to the consumer first within the selected areas, certain cities. Like we are saying Bay Area, but within certain cities within that. And once that's proven, then we'll model to the other one. So it's you are right. So we will not get all the consumers, but we will, once we start with the smaller areas, we can grow that way. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, note that.
Hello.
Need to get that closer.
Oh yeah.
Do I have this right? Test, test.
Yeah, it is working.
Hi guys, we are LoTap. My name is Parmveer Sandhu. Before digging into the whole BMC, the LoTap team felt that we should first introduce to you how the idea came about. So for start, I have years of experience in the trucking industry. I have about 5 families that own 5 different companies. I practically grew up in the trucking industry. For the past couple of years, I've actually started my own, and currently I am managing 10 trucks and drivers on a daily basis. So the idea of LoTap really sprung its roots based off my own pressure points. And I started realizing that, hey, my family members are having the same exact pressure points as well. One of those pressure points is driver status, load status. Every day I'm calling my drivers multiple times trying to figure out, driver A, where are you? What's your current status? Are you loaded? Are you unloaded? The reason being is our customers who are providing us the freight are asking us the same questions. I'm getting 2 to 3 phone calls a day asking where is the driver? What's his current location? What time was he loaded? So this kind of gave us an idea to start our MVP. The overall goal of LoTap is to solve a bigger pressure point as well, which is the freight booking aspect. Currently in freight booking for small trucking companies like myself with 20 or less trucks, the process is going on these load boards, which are outdated platforms, and they're kind of like the Craigslist of trucking. So brokers and shippers, they go on there, they'll post available freight, kind of like a classified, and I'm spending hours a day calling these classified posts, trying to figure out what's the right freight for my guy and the right rate. So it's a very cumbersome process. There's a lot of time wasted on the phone, status updates, and booking freight as well. So for start with the MVP, we're gonna focus only on the small trucking companies. We're gonna provide them a web platform where they can send load information to a driver's mobile app, and in return, the mobile app provides status updates to the web platform of the trucking company, and also GPS location.
Yeah, so this is Gurmeet Singh. So I'm going to talk about the customer segment. Is it working? Yeah. So as Aramveer mentioned, there are actually a couple of players in this market. There are shippers, there are carrier companies, and there are brokers in the middle. And a lot of other companies are trying to actually replace the broker and create a marketplace, but we figured out that is market. That's very hard to capture the market because there won't be too much of market adoption quickly enough, because there's a chicken and egg situation. Unless you have a lot of carriers on the platform, shippers won't come in, and the other way around. So we figured out we'll actually solve the problem on the carrier side. So carrier side, we figured out from the data, statistical data, that there is actually 97.2% of the carriers are 20 trucks or less. So they're all mom and pop shops. So those are the one we're going to target. and there are actually 570,000 of those. So even if you capture 5% of that, that's going to be pretty good. So we're targeting the dispatcher. So if dispatcher sees the value that they can actually locate the freight, and driver also is able to get some value out of using the app, so we'll be able to capture those dispatchers, and then the drivers would automatically be on the system. So that will give us a good market segment. And actually the idea, we are still trying to figure out whether we should charge them for this system or make it free. And in the return, we collect all the data, and then we can actually sell the analytics on that data to various operators. So I think I won't take too much of time. You can probably go ahead.
So I'm going to speak on channels. So the channels we're going to use to reach out to our customers is on social media. So there are some group on the Facebook like rates per mile, and then normally brokers and the trucking company owners, they do have accounts on LinkedIn. And then there are some magazines like Desi Truck and Latino Trucks. They are freely available at truck dealers, truck stop, and part stores. Those are the and then we have a direct sales through our web.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the revenue model here, as Gurmeet was telling you earlier. So we are distributing. We are distributing. We want to distribute as widely as possible the app. So the MVP app for large adoption. So that's free. So it's right away value to the drivers and the dispatchers. So that's free. We are looking to sell for revenues the analytics. So counting about $50 a month, right? So regularly they would sign checks like less than $100. So $50 a month for a 5% of the market, we're looking at something like $16 million a year. So that's basically the business model we have with the MVP right off the bat. Thank you. We're running out of time.
Question?
So the cost structure looks really low, which is great. I mean, the development and everything is really low, in the low tens of thousands, I think at max. The revenue stream potential looks amazingly good. And there are companies who've been trying to do this, got investments and things like that. So my question is, what is the catch here? So investment profile is very low, potential is so high, people have been trying, but like, what is it missing that, like, what will make this different?
So I know the two you're talking about, Cargomatic and Trucker Path. First of all, Cargomatic has a very local approach. They're focusing on Los Angeles only, where they do LTL or I'm sorry, local, the freight market. Truckers Path, who recently just got $20 million, they have 300,000 users, right? So they've validated this issue of drivers and people that have their own trucks using a mobile app. But those guys are not the decision makers necessarily, the drivers and the owner operators in terms of who's purchasing the freight, right? So for example, I'll give you my example. All my drivers, I have 5 drivers and 5 guys with their own trucks. They all report to me. I make the decision. I source the freight. I'm not on Truckers Path. They are. They're all using Trucker Path to manage, write pre-trip, which direction to go, which routes to avoid, right? So they are taking a creative approach, but they've got the adoption from the non-decision makers currently. So now they're going to spend a lot of resources trying to get people like me to adopt. So that's kind of the differentiating point where we're targeting the decision makers from the start.
Can I add something to
Yeah, of course.
Just correct me. What is that? I think he brought out a good point about the trucker's path and all that. But what we differentiate, which has not been mentioned much, we will be providing a value for the dispatchers, which is going to relieve them of some of their pain points. And in return, we get all this to have them like user acquisition, because how do we get them to adopt? Why should they adopt our product? So there is something key that we will be providing them, which would be the immediate gratification for them to adopt. And then is that?
Yeah. So go ahead.
So dispatcher has couple of pain points. So they have a lot of paperwork to do. They have to find out the optimized routes for the driver, optimum delivery things, trying to track where the driver is because the broker keeps calling them, and various other function integrating with other system, etc. But we are trying to just fix one particular pain point in our MVP, which is to be able to locate the drivers and be able to inform their brokers when they call them, and couple of other smaller things along with it. So the idea is that this MVP will actually address the main pain point and will able to validate the idea, and from there we can actually add other pain points as well.
Just to kind of touch upon why we chose this MVP, it's not just based off my personal issues as well. We actually went out and talked to a lot of different customers, and this issue is shared amongst them as well. To throw some numbers at you, spending anywhere between 2 to 10 minutes per phone call trying to find out the location of a driver or load status, and that's per phone call. My end, I get 2 to 3 calls from one customer for one load a day. So not only am I calling my drivers trying to figure out, are you loaded? What's your location? I need to relay that information when my customer is calling me as well. So that's why we took this approach for the pain point for the MVP. So.
Great. I personally think that it's a great space because I think there are some real problems that need to be. I think it's a very good space, problems to be solved. I still feel that some core insights are missing in my hunch. I think you got some core insights, but I think there is some sort of winning solutions in this space that I think the more you dig, you're going to find it. So I would say that, a lot more customer discovery needs to be done because, I think like UPS, all the big guys, FedEx, UPS have all realized the value of providing continuous online update about any shipment, So, it's a major selling benefit. So one way or the other, if you can figure out what the real problems are and how to solve them, and then how to get adoption of, because I think there's an adoption issue, there is a usage issue, there is a reporting issue, there is a there's a lot of places that this thing needs to address. But I think it's a great space to have an answer because it is confused and it's still not got the optimum answer as yet. Great. Okay, next group.
You have get it.
And brokers can come and tweak.
Optioning the load.
Yeah. So to get to that point, we're first trying to get the adoption, right? So solve. I think that's the biggest issue is getting people to use a platform. There's a lot of platforms that have tried to give that solution, but they're struggling with adoption, not just from the trucking company end, also the broker end and the shipper end. So there's an adoption issue on both sides.
We can go with renter roof. Okay.
All right. Renter roof.
Yeah. Renter. Okay. Renter.
This side. Okay. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
All right. So we are the Renter Roof team. My name is Prem Seelan. This is Sumit and Siva. Okay. So we are building a platform for
all the investment property owners, right? This is targeting all those people who currently own investment properties, and they have to post it in different areas to really find renters and maybe even find good agencies to rent their properties. Especially if they're remote, it's even harder. So this idea just came to me as an exercise for the class, but looks like there's some positive response. And some of my colleagues also are facing similar issues. So we decided to go the full mile and see where it takes us. So as customers, we're going to target the small percentage of owners, the property owners. I think we're going to explain that a little later, but they'll be our primary customers. And then we'll always have renters. We need renters to rent these properties. And then, of course, we'll need agencies, if you're remote, to really help these two parties, right? So they are our main target customers. And value-wise, we're going to give free, they can post for free. The owners can post for free. Renters can look up the posts for free. Agencies, we'll probably charge a little to come in since they're getting more traffic. And we're also going to do the contracts. We're going to do payment systems. So it's basically an end-to-end solution for all these customers. And revenue-wise, we're probably going to target some percentage. I know it's a changing percentage. We have mentioned 3% there, but it doesn't have to be. We are going to charge some percentage of transactions for every payment or whatever which goes through. Then we'll have some charge for the agencies to join, since they are going to get a little more traffic. And we'll have some service providers also. Like we'll have all these Handy and HomeJoy and all these other service providers who can join in, and they can get some traffic through our tool as well. So we can take a small cut out of that. And then ad space, obviously, we always have ad revenues. So from channel-wise, obviously, we're going to have websites and apps. We'll have, obviously, both Android and iOS. So those will be our main channels. Activities, yeah, we've looked at building portals and apps and marketing. And obviously, when you make a product, you have to look at the brand as well. So we have to look at how we can get that. Partners, we're going to look at our immediate circles, right? Our family and friends and colleagues who have been through similar issues, and we will start with them and slowly start tying up with other real estate agencies or companies like Redfin, who are big real estate companies, and we can tie up with them, and they can, as they get investors buying their properties through their portal, they can direct to us as well. And then we have some tax consultants who can help out our customers with tax areas. Cost structures, we'll obviously have to build up portals and maintain and advertising, marketing, all that. Do you want to add anything else?
No, I think he's covered all the stuff except that we are our target population. What we have figured out is just 8% starting, because we did a two-step approach. First, we went to our friends, relative, our colleagues within Bay Area, outside Bay Area, to validate our approach. And second thing, we talked to a lot of real estate agents and went on the internet to find out what is the right population for us to target. So it came around 8%, which they have at least one home or more than one home, and they want to rent it out. So yeah, and we have more details in the bottom how we came up with the number.
Questions?
I just want to add a couple of points. So here the focus is on providing a platform rather than kind of a service. Know that there are a lot of sites where they do the property management or rental property management. So we are not focusing on that kind of activities. We are just going to concentrate on making the platform more efficient and more coverage and more features in that, and only focus on rental, like not like Zillow or somewhere where the rental is their byproduct. Like their main focus is real the property sale. So, but this one will be just concentrating on the rental part, and then focus mainly on providing a platform, which may be even global kind of platform, scalable.
Yeah, that's a good point which Siva brought up. We are not going to own any infrastructure or personnel here. We are only creating a platform where people can connect into it. So it can be scalable globally.
That's the differentiation.
Any questions, guys?
Sure.
So you're basically trying to connect the investors with the property managers.
We are trying to we're trying to connect end users or homeowners with the renters and agencies, so they can do both. It's their choice. Basically.
Even property maintenance agencies also, they are also part of the user base. But this is only a platform.
I'm not sure about US, but in Australia, there are privacy regulations where the renter should not contact the owner. That's the only way to contact is through the property manager. So if you make it transparent, there may be some different kind of thing.
Yeah, so we have to. This is we have when we scale, we have to figure out the local laws and the regulatories. Yeah.
And I guess we also have agencies, so it's not like a hindrance right now. We could always use that as a channel.
Yep. Any other question?
Sorry.
Are you guys targeting a specific area in the U.S. or is it just going to be open right away? And the reason I asked that question is there's an app called On My Block. They're based off in San Diego, and they're trying something similar where they only focus on San Diego area and connect pretty much renters to people who own properties and want to do use.
Right. Actually, that's a good point because Sudarshan just pointed me to a site in India, right? It's called nobroker.in, and they're doing exactly the same thing. They're connecting property managers, or rather the owners, to the renters directly, right? There's no brokers. So we want to give that agency option so that people living remotely can still be able to trust an agent. We are going to verify the people who join our portal, right? We're going to, for example, in US, we'll probably take SSNs of people registering, and we'll do the background check, and we'll have them as verified. So you can confidently say, okay, this person is trustable.
And we can start
similarly
with
to agencies.
We can start with one city, and then it's a scalable option. So we'll see how we can scale it.
So one additional channel that I feel you can explore is the organizers of the property fairs. So lately I've been seeing many properties from India. There is a fair
Right.
potential buyer.
Yeah,
So
that's a good option.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. There is I don't know whether you checked on Zillow.com.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they also have the rentals available there.
Yeah, but their focus is not on rent.
Yeah, their focus is on selling properties.
Right, but they started the renting part now. They have they can provide, like if you are looking for the houses, then you can also look for, okay, I don't have somebody that doesn't have capacity to buy, then they have service to, they can say, okay, give me the properties which are for rent also.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can check it out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, sensor sec.
Thank you.
Is this working like that? Did I get that right? Okay. Hello. So we are SensorSec. I'm Ilker, Lokesh, and Shrikant. So we are talking about IoT security. What that means, IoT means different to every people out there. Whoever you ask, you get a somewhat of a different definition. But overall, it can be categorized in 3 different buckets. One is industrial, all the manufacturing and factory floors and everything. The other one, the popular one, is all the wearables and the watches and the phones and everything else, the thermostats, Nest, and how many billions of dollars they were sold for. There is something in between, which more of the enterprise market type is best summarized with smart cities and all the applications around it, smart meters, some healthcare applications, smart parking, and all the things that are happening. This is not science fiction. This is actually happening today. Everyone is focusing on the applications. Not many people are focusing on the security. The basic premise is it's secure because there is encryption, which has been proven very wrong in the past in the enterprise security space. We all know that. So what is missing in this thing is nobody knows what's happening out there. So they assume that things are secure until it's proven otherwise. No one has proven this. As the security guru Bruce Schneider says, what happens as a secret government research project today turns into a PhD thesis 4 years from now and turns into attack tools of the script kiddies essentially for everyone in 8 years' time. And these things are happening. It's just like that people don't know. So what is our value proposition? We propose to detect whatever attacks might be happening out there. And firstly, by identifying those things. And we want to provide visibility into particularly the virus segment, because that's the part that's growing. With all the enterprise segment, all the sensors, they're communicating wirelessly, and it's a big unknown. These things are communicating over 20 miles and more. And we want to provide security auditing when you need it. And essentially, for our specific first customer segment, and theft is an issue, and energy theft, and I'll talk about it. So this is all good, but one thing that you need to do in the security space is first prove the problem to the customers, because they won't accept it unless they've seen it. So one key activity there is vulnerability research, which I will come. Customer segments are various. Anything in this enterprise security segment who uses wireless sensor networks are potential customers. The problem is it's a little too big. So for focusing and doing customer validation, the first one that we want to focus is the more widely adopted one is smart meter systems. There is the target group is enterprise customers, but their customers are end users, and there's a possible risk of energy theft. This has been proven as proof of concepts. It's not widespread yet in terms of attacks, but that's happening. So one of our activities for proving that customer segment is finding the attack vectors first by doing vulnerability research, which is the primary key activity, and then proving that to the customer and with the solution. That's the cycle. The first step is customer validation and moving down the list. So energy segment is being the first one because immediately there is a financial complication and financial result. The other ones are healthcare, and the list goes on, but we wanted to capture the utilities one. Customer relationships and channels are somewhat straightforward. This is direct and distributor model. It's the standard enterprise model for selling security solutions. Especially the initial strategic ones are direct, building relationships, leveraging networks. Key activities and resources. Really, in this business, it's all about proving what the vulnerabilities are, and who is taking the lead in that one gets the mind share of the customers and the segment. So really doing that research and proving what the problems are on a practical level, because it's already well known. Like there are 6 or 7 well-known attacks identified in these areas. If you take the analogy from the IT world, that usually grows exponentially. From 6, it becomes 60, 600, and just so forth. Key partners, in this case, since our primary target is utilities, that's one of the key partners. All the threat intelligence providers and security research community is key, because there's a lot of people, there are a lot of curious people, researchers that want to do research, and they do research, but they want the fame and compensation for it. So building that ecosystem of not only doing the research yourself, but getting research from others and giving the recognition, and also bug bounty programs as known in the industry is an important one. Cost structure. Vulnerability research is the highest cost item. It's an expensive thing to acknowledge. That's a unique skill set. And it's just, there are already people out there, like within our network, who does that. Bug bounty payments, essentially using the industry to buy the research that's existing, and developing the software and hardware. Revenue streams coming from 3 primary areas: appliance sales, the subscriptions, this is the subscription model, and plus you can sell the same thing to vendors for improving their security implementations.
Questions?
I had 2 questions, but to finish everything. So one quick thing was, so with the first part, it makes sense to me in terms of you
need to prove the vulnerabilities to your customers before they do things. Sure. So the process of proving that to them, I'm just curious, do you have to tell them you're going to form some kind of attack? How do you prove this to them?
Sure. So one perception is when people don't know anything, they assume it's safe. And when no one talks about it, they think it's better. But what you do is you do targeted vulnerability research. And there's an ethical way of doing that, right? You find vulnerabilities, share those with vendors because the weakness is out there. But what happens between the time that you find it and the vendor fix it, the customers are exposed. And that's the time frame that you provide your solution for that visibility because that's the big open area. And that can be years.
I'm trying to also just understand like how your business model fits into this. Once you find these vulnerabilities, are these vulnerabilities where you have a solution, the solution just scales, or is it like every time you find a vulnerability, it's going to be a slightly different solution? So it's almost
Great question. It does scale because that's the beauty of that. That's where the subscription comes in. You find something once, and then you can sell that any number of times to everyone. Yes. So applications can be specific. One vulnerability can be more critical in this environment versus that environment. But that database that you build is your know-how, and that's your key differentiator because the early on you come into that will be your key thing, right?
How do you protect it? I mean, once the vulnerability is identified, can you protect that solution?
You can. There are technical solutions to protect that. Whether it's wise to do that from a business angle is a separate discussion. Yes, it can be done. In the industry, there have been players who followed both approaches. I'm more of a follower of an open approach because that gets you more mind share. And I think at the end, you are better off business-wise, but technically, you can follow either approach. It's a possibility.
So have you explored looking at the segment wherein the customers use these smart lock IoT-based devices and things like Nest and other? So there, the vulnerability will be more apparent.
Sure.
Because here at the end, people may not be really aware of how much energy they are losing or the payment.
Good question. So the trick there is you can prove it, and the vulnerabilities are going to be worse there, and it can going to capture more attention. The problem is business. How are you going to sell to my mom whose fridge might be sending spam? By the way, that's actually happening, right? Proving the problem is not difficult. It's just like, who are you going to sell it to? Selling security solutions to consumers, unless there are things like antivirus programs, are difficult. You are better off targeting enterprises which are at the risk of losing reputation or money or something. So the bond model this is a B2B model. In a Nest model, you would be a B2C. This is a B2B segment for that reason. But the problem, you're right, is more imminent, and since the exposure is broader there, it's just the business, how to monetize that is challenging.
Great, thank you. Good. Okay, I think we've got 3 teams left, but I think, again, we'll have to do it next week. Who's left anyway? Just to, what team is that? Smart. Yeah, get it?
So we have a
Get
smart
it, team?
Yeah, that's right. Autolock, get it? The team get it? Did you present it?
We have not presented.
And the bold canvas. These are the 4 teams who are left. Anybody else left?
Okay, so next week we'll do that. And a couple of quick ones. Most likely 2 things. One is on the 21st, there's a very exciting entrepreneur doing something called My Story on Tuesday, the 21st. 6 o'clock or?
Oh yeah, it starts at 6 like this. From 6 to 7 is dinner, and from 7 to 8:30 is the event.
So I think, as you'll have seen from the guest speakers that have come, a lot of learnings there. So I think, first of all, you need to get into the habit of attending the My Story sessions. And for members, it's free, I believe, right? For members of TIE, it's free, and membership is like $50 or $100.
Membership is $150 per year, and you get to attend a lot of events over here. It includes dinner and somebody talking, a panel discussion, My Story, some other events.
So I would say that, you should attend that 21st thing, and then we will probably reschedule the class for 22nd or 23rd. We'll give you a call, send you an announcement. So that's one thing. The second thing is there was a headphone that was left on the table last week. If anybody has put it in by mistake or something, but it was left on the desk, on the table here. Yes. No? Okay. So there was one that was lying around. Huh? Yeah,
There's
go
a class this Thursday also on startup essential and pitfalls. What's your feedback on that?
The more you attend, the better it's going to get. So I would say that, first of all, like when you attend these TIE events, you might end up finding team members. You might, hey, Selectica started because I was at TiECon and there was a inventor of that configuration technology on the same table. I mean, and we was just sitting next to each other by total random chance, So, because, this is where people who are interested in entrepreneurship show up. Nobody else shows up. So, I mean, I think people who make a habit of coming to TIE events will end up becoming entrepreneurs at some point or the other. So I think it's a very good habit to get into. That's number one. The second thing is, there's the learnings that you get here when you listen to these my stories and the motivation you get and the contacts you get. I don't think you can get any other place because it's an intimate environment. You can ask questions. People are receptive to connecting with you. So I would encourage people to come to this my story kind of things, the pitfalls and what startup
pitfalls or something.
essentials and startups. Yeah, exactly.
Some leadership.
Yeah. These are all tremendous things to start coming to. Just make it a habit. And you'll start seeing pretty much the same people, good number of same people, and you start making friends and so on. And I mean, I found customers here, I found investors here, I found co-founders here, and I found future employees here. I found everybody that I needed for all my companies. So, why not use it? That's what we started TIE for, right? Okay, thank you guys. Good job, everybody. Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah. Most likely it'll be Thursday. Not this way.
Do you know the date for 201? Is it end of the year?
Yeah, it'll be November 10th. We were just talking about it.
November 10th?
November 10th to probably December 24th.
Yeah, I'm going to India. I just want to make sure I come back before.
Okay.
So November 10th, okay.
Yeah.
Is that a fixed date or it might change?
It'll be around that time.
Okay.
Because I come back from India November 1.
Okay.
So take a week's break and then start.
Thank you.
Raj, we really would like to hear feedback from you on what you think.
Yes. So we were kind of rushed.
Sure.
But I think the space is good. I think some good thinking needs to be done by talking to customers and so on, or potentially through the customer discovery process or whatever. Because my feeling is that it's a great space to be in. I think there's an opportunity. I'd like to know why Symantec and others that are already there in security are not shown up in the IoT spaces, so to speak. Like IoT security space, why they're not there? I'd like to know that.
They're actually entering. They're trying to enter from the industrial space, like so does Cisco, right? And that's
So it's like as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to know what the competition of future is working on and why you think your approach is going to be better, right? So